Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Tuesday, November 26, 2024, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Education. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Thomasina Bello? Roll call.
Ms. Christine Bello.
Here.
Ms. Thomasina Bello.
Here.
Ms. Mackenzie Boucher. Ms. Victoria Boucher.
Here.
Mr. Bergarelli. Here. Mr. Duray. Present. Mr. Howard. Ms. Politti. Mr. Stewart. Here.
Good evening. So nice to see you. Tonight, we will be recognizing two students from Horizons on the Hudson. Miss Jump, the school's librarian, is here to introduce our fabulous students and highlight their amazing achievement.
Good afternoon, everyone. So we have both students and my assistant principal from the past who's here to provide moral support. So good afternoon or good evening, Dr. Manning Campbell. Good afternoon, members of the board. Good afternoon, community. I'm here with a posse or cheerleading group for the support of Rhodes and Nadia. They're being recognized tonight for their research and citing of historical documents in a project they did for their fifth grade final project, which was called Operation Hidden Support. The project uncovered little-known facts about the role of women, children, and animals supporting global efforts around the world. And they even included some of our own local history. Very exciting. They are to be commended for their grit. They pushed through the last day of school. They chose to work past the last day of school in that room over there in the library. Just a little snack here and there got them through, and we entered the 34th competition at the state level. And now we're here. And isn't it worth it? Now they've gotten certificates of merit at the state level. So we're just so thrilled that the village is here to support. I have to thank my past administrator, members of the HOH community, and retired West Point Staff Sergeant Rivers. She was actually the person who got them their interest peaked. We also worked with the city historian, Mrs. Mary McTemney, who could not be here tonight, but she was an important part of this. And I also want to thank the history librarians in our own local history room, and that's Miss Heather and Miss Carla. So we're super proud of you, guys. It's just phenomenal. Grit, I think, is like an elusive trait these days, and for you to have done this is phenomenal and commendable. Thank you, and thank you all for recognizing them tonight. Couple airports.
you want to join?
Dr. Manning Campbell and Board, Rhodes' mother was wondering if there was a possibility she could say something very quickly. Is that okay with Madam President? Is that okay?
I just wanted to formally thank Ms. Jump. She's just obviously a phenomenal teacher in the school district, and we didn't even know about this opportunity, and she brought it to us and educated us, and just super grateful that she made all this happen with our kids. Thank you, Ms. Jump.
Okay, so now we'll move into public comments on agenda items, and that'll be followed by public comments on non-agenda items. So when called to speak, please state your name and municipality of residence. You will have 5 minutes to speak. We ask that you address your concerns to the board as a whole and not to individual board members. All speakers and observers must conduct themselves in a civil manner. Obscene language, defamatory comments, threats of violence, statements advocating racial, religious, or other forms of prejudice will not be tolerated. You cannot mention names of any individual board members, members of staff, or students of the district. We reserve the right to remove you from the podium and the meeting if you fail to comply. Thank you. So, who do we have first?
The first person signed up to speak, Madam President, is Ms. Dawn Fuchek.
Okay.
Good evening, Dawn Fuchek, resident of the town of Newburgh. Tonight, I'll be speaking to items 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, and 6.5. I'm actually a little confused. I'm not sure why these items are on as resolutions. They all seem to be items that could have been addressed through a conversation. And if that conversation wasn't successful, then I did notice that each of these items already has a policy regarding it. So why wouldn't it then have been brought to the policy committee? The policy committee is supposed to review policies, and if changes are needed, they are vetted at the committee level and then brought to the full board for any recommendations. That being said, item 6.1, in the past practice, the full cabinet members have always been part of executive session. And the purpose of that is because typically those individuals have relevant information to the matters being discussed. Administration is a team. They don't work in a silo. Their work often overlaps, and they often have relevant information to the items being discussed in executive session. Item 6.2, I think the language in this resolution lacks some flexibility. I believe the board clerk is also part of this meeting as he prepares the agenda for the meeting. The superintendent, the board clerk, and in this case, the board president, all have jobs, and they have other obligations that might already be on their calendars that make it impossible to stick to this rigid schedule. This is a huge district, and stuff comes up. So I would ask that you be a little more flexible on that. 6.3, just an observation. This resolution seems to be serving the needs of specific individuals. Typically, a special meeting is called in the event of an item that needs urgent attention or is some sort of emergency, and it cannot wait until the next scheduled meeting. Special meetings should be based on the availability of the quorum of the board. You all knew the requirements of being board members and being board officers, and if you couldn't fulfill those requirements, then perhaps you shouldn't have run for that position. 6.5. Again, I'm not sure of the purpose of this resolution, but this is something that can be done at the Finance Committee. If you want to address transparency, that can be done at the Finance Committee, as the board committee meetings are open to the public. Past practice has been that committee chairs report out on their monthly committee meetings at the board meeting, thereby providing transparency to the full board and the community. Does the district even use ACH payments? I don't know. And if they do, are they recorded like a check is recorded and therefore go through the claims auditor? You've stated this is for the purpose of fiscal oversight, so isn't it more efficient to go through the Finance Committee? This is a huge district, and this seems like a voluminous amount of work that could be more efficiently addressed at the Finance Committee level. In addition, as stated at previous board meetings, the claims auditor reviews this as one of the checks and balances that are in place here in the district for the Finance Department. While it's certainly within your purview to ask for this, is it really necessary? Thank you.
The next person signed up to speak on agenda items is Ms. Tracy Wallace.
Thank you. Yep. Hi, I'm Tracy Wallace. I live in the city of Newburgh. I'm going to speak about 4.3, transportation. I had it, sorry, I don't have my iPad. On agenda item 4.3 for transportation. So about transportation, the few concerns is the bidding process. I seem to see the same bus companies year after year, and yet we're awarding them contracts year after year with multiple complaints about transportation. On the training piece of transportation that you have in your presentation, I don't see training on people with disabilities. I don't see training on, working with children on the buses. I know that I have 4 children, and through the process of working with the buses was quite difficult, especially with my oldest daughter who has autism. She was made fun of on a bus to the point where I had to go to the bus company pregnant, I believe I had 2 kids, so I was pregnant. I went there to complain, and all they did was give us another bus. Actually, we had our own bus during that year. Another year, same thing, filed a complaint, and they just keep moving the kids around, but yet we have the same contracts and we have the same problems in the bus with the buses. So my concern was the bidding process and the RFP process and the proposals and the bidding, and I would like a little more information on that process and how many bids went out, how long did you have the bidding out? I don't know if the board looks into these things for transportation, but this is our new board members, and I would appreciate if they could also do their due diligence in looking into the process of how transportation is chosen and the training for transportation as well. And to look into your, complaints, look into these things for these buses, make sure that these transportation is right for these children. Thank you.
So now we'll move into non-agenda items.
Pardon me, Madam President, there's one other person signed up on agenda items, Ms. Sade Burks.
Ms. Burks. for agenda items.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sade Brooks, resident of the city of Newburgh. I'm going to speak on item 6.1, approve persons who may attend meetings. Again, as stated by another resident of Newburgh, I don't see the clerk on here. I'm not sure why he's not on here. He's been to meetings in the past. I don't see why he would be excluded now. As far as no meeting shall be held on a weekday with the start time earlier than 6:30 p.m., from my understanding, special meetings are held for situations that may come up that cannot wait till the next meeting to be addressed. So if we're waiting till 6:30 p.m., you guys already pushed the meetings back till 6:30 p.m. So if we come here on a board meeting night and now we have to wait again for another half an hour or 3 hours, you guys like to take all night, for you guys to have a special meeting, how is that fair to the public? You guys are supposed to be up here to serve your district, to serve the children, to serve the public. Now you guys are asking us to wait longer than the allotted time from before, which is 6 o'clock. Pushed it back to 6:30. Now you're asking us to sit and wait even longer for you guys to have a special meeting. I don't understand why these meetings can't be held earlier on during the week. Again, this is a volunteer position. All persons who volunteered should have made time to look over the schedule of the board members and make sure that the schedule fits their time, and that their time fits the volunteer position that they're volunteering for. I don't understand why you guys are changing everything. I don't understand who's coming up with these agenda items, but I just think that's unfair to the public, and it discourages the public from coming out, because if you guys had a special meeting tonight, we all came here at 6:30 on the dot. So we would have to sit and wait another hour or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 for you guys to handle what you have to handle. Not only is the public here, but we have our children here. Thank God there's no school tomorrow and it's Thanksgiving break, or our children, because some of us are single parents, but we care enough about this district to be here and to comment on items. We would have to have our kids out until you guys get done taking care of your business. Thank you.
Madam President, I would like to speak on agenda items. I said I would like to speak on agenda items. A comment on agenda items, under agenda items portion of the meeting. Thank you. So I was going to wait till we got to the president's portion, but since it has already been spirited and people have already discussed it, I think it's necessary for me to read something in regards to 6.1 on the agenda items. I need to confront an issue that is absolutely critical to the integrity of this board and respect we owe to one another, as well as the trust placed in us by the community we serve. The resolution 6.1 introduced by our board president this evening, which seeks to restrict attendance of the cabinet team composed of the assistant superintendents of the various departments serving our student population and other district employees, must be addressed head on. Let's be unequivocally clear. This resolution isn't merely a procedural change. It represents a troubling act of disrespect and division that undermines our collaborative spirit. The board president frequently champions transparency. However, this resolution is fundamentally opaque, marginalizing our trustees, the superintendent, and certainly lacking any spirit of inclusion or collaboration. First and foremost, this resolution dismisses the invaluable contributions of diverse perspectives in decision-makings by excluding the executive cabinet from our discussions. We cannot afford to overlook the expertise, experience, and insights that these professionals bring to the table. Our work is not achieved in isolation. It necessitates the input of all stakeholders, particularly those who have been hired specifically for their talents in their respective fields and who represent students that we serve. Moreover, this resolution represents a serious breach of trust. It sends a clear message of exclusivity and control rather than one of cooperation and partnership. Such actions erode the confidence of our community and colleagues, implying that critical decisions are made in a vacuum, deliberately excluding the voices of our executives who are in the cabinet. This is not the governance we should endorse or advocate. Our executive cabinet is made up of skilled educational professionals who are essential to the management and progress of the district. Additionally, the behavior exhibited by the board president is not only inappropriate, but outright counterproductive. True leadership is about uniting people, not creating division. Tactics that marginalize others, such as framing this resolution in a restrictive manner, undermine our mission. We cannot hope to build consensus or effectively address the pressing needs of our district if we begin from a position of exclusion. Finally, we must consider the precedent that this sets. What message does this send to our students who are always observing our actions? Approving this resolution tonight would normalize the prioritization of personal agendas over collective responsibility. It would send a clear message that disrespect and divisiveness are acceptable in our governance. I refuse to stand by and let this happen. As leaders, we bear a profound responsibility to uphold the principles of integrity, inclusivity, and respect of every person in our stake. This resolution is not just misguided. It is an unacceptable attempt by the board president to isolate our executive cabinet members and undermine the very foundation of our collaborative governance. I call upon my fellow trustees to reject this divisive measure unequivocally and to send united messages against the egregious misuse of authority. To the board president, I implore you to reconsider your actions and the implications of your agenda created by this isolation. This resolution not only falls short of ethical leadership standards, but it also establishes a dangerous precedent that threatens the trust and progress we owe to our students, to our staff, and to our community. We are better than this, and we must act accordingly for the greater good to all that we serve. Thank you, Madam President.
I would like to respond to that. We are just bringing this into being consistent with the law.
Where's our time?
Open meetings law requires this. So maybe because we've been doing it this way for such a long time.
I'll see you. Open meetings law requires that executive cabinet members are not allowed in an executive session. The superintendent's team is not allowed in executive session to help aid and assist her so she may be able or have to call on for their expertise, but you want to exclude them, and you're saying that that's what the open meetings law states?
Well, this is now, it's consistent with the law as it is right now.
Which law?
It's open meetings law as it pertains to executive sessions.
So, open meetings, for clarification, open meeting law states that executive sessions are to exclude cabinet members, assistant superintendents. That's what you're telling me.
If they don't have anything to add, then they,
So in the course of our executive sessions, and I won't exclude what we talk about, but when questions are asked, how many times have you seen the superintendent ask the deputy superintendent or the assistant superintendent for finance or the assistant superintendent for HR a question? How often has that happened?
well, they can always be invited in if they have pertinent information.
Oh my gosh. So they just supposed to sit outside and wait?
That's disrespectful. I'm sorry.
Mr. Shaw, can you comment on that?
Very disrespectful.
The open meetings law indicates that the board can invite people into the meeting who they believe are relevant. So that's the general standard of the law.
Okay, so are our assistant superintendents, the superintendent's cabinet, are they relevant?
They're certainly relevant on issues that they're familiar with.
Thank you.
How can you have a real discussion without all the key players? These people are joking.
We're now moving on to the non-agenda items. The first person to speak on non-agenda items is Mr. Jeff Ehlers.
How are you? Jeff Ehlers, New Windsor. Since there's been no communication from the district in the last 3 weeks, I would like to get an update regarding the football locker room incident that happened last month. I doubt I'm going to get anything tonight. Moving on, the pep rally was held on November 13th, and I was curious why the football team was intentionally excluded from this event. When a football player who consistently upholds our Goldback standards and represents our community positively asked his administrator if he could participate or be recognized, he was told the football players were not allowed to participate. When I emailed the principal to inquire, the response I received was, every year the pep rally is organized by our student council. Senior recognition goes through the athletic office in conjunction with the coaches of the sport. But our dedicated coaching staff has been advised to not communicate with the players or their families. In an email dated November 5th, it is important to clarify that it has never been my intention to penalize our dedicated scholars, particularly those who consistently uphold our Goldback standards and represent our community positively. Every year there is a Section 9 Exceptional Senior Bowl. This year, the game will be on Saturday, December 7th. Will our outstanding students be given the chance to be considered for the Exceptional Senior Bowl, or will they be denied this opportunity as well? Also stated in the same email, we have identified some of those involved and have a clearer understanding of the timeline of events, allowing us to proceed more expeditiously from here. Despite the punishment of those involved, the entire team and coaches are still facing severe consequences and being ostracized. Who bears the responsibility for students once school concludes until the start of practice? And how can coaches oversee students arriving from different campuses? If a student leaves a class to use the bathroom and gets into a fight in the bathroom, is the teacher held accountable for that student's actions? Are the rumors about our coaches not being able to return next year true, despite their 20-plus years of dedication to the football team and the loyalty to Newburgh? Thanks to the coaches' strict enforcement of rules, the football program has boosted student attendance and graduation rates, leading to countless kids earning scholarships and attending college, making a positive impact on the community. The football program supports local businesses, purchasing signs and banners, apparel and food. They provide meals and snacks for the team and cheerleaders, the support staff, security, throughout the summer camps and at home and away games. The coaches always ensure to support those who support the team, with the program serving as mentors to the youth Goldbacks and the City of Newburgh Steelers football and cheer program. The coaches have received great evaluations accolades, but now they find themselves deserted with not much support. The coaches have created a positive team culture, inspiring confidence and enthusiasm in their players. They focus on players' strengths, praise their accomplishments, and provide a supportive environment. The leadership in the Newburgh and Large City School District fails to recognize and uplift those who have made a significant positive impact on our children. Their efforts are now being overlooked. What a mess it is that the district will be struggling to find top-notch coaches, with more and more educators opting to leave Newburgh behind. Without such dedicated coaches, the program's fate looks bleak. The indecisiveness from the leadership has negatively impacted the trajectory of the careers for the coaches and the students and their futures. Why are things allowed to happen in Newburgh that wouldn't be allowed to happen in other districts? Why are close to 100 football players getting changed from their school clothes into their football equipment in the middle of the football field for everyone to see? Why was the girls' modified lacrosse team denied access to a place to change at NFA North and forced to use a dirty porta potty as a locker room before practicing games? How embarrassing. Why does it seem like coaches are always approved to coach at the last minute? Games are canceled because of bus scheduling errors and not made up. Is it just Newburgh being Newburgh? Same old Newburgh?
Mr. Ayers, I'd like to respond to you. some portions of it. Thank you for coming, and thank you for coming and expressing your concerns at the last meeting. So we can't comment on ongoing investigation or personnel matters. We will, however, have the athletic department check into the winter ball and the recognition ceremony, so we will have a response for that. Thank you.
The next person signed up to speak on non-agenda items is Ms. Dawn Fuchek.
Dawn Fuchek, Town of Newburgh. I really want to see this board focus on student outcomes. I've shared with you before that I do provide trainings for school boards across New York State, so I know that of which I am about to speak. The board has three main responsibilities: to set policy, to hire and evaluate the superintendent, and to put a proposed budget out to the community. It's not the board's job to run the district. It's the board's job to ensure that the district is being run properly. You do that by providing oversight. A board provides oversight by allocating resources and setting policies that are in alignment with the district's mission, vision, and goals. When boards are voting on resolutions, they should be considering whether or not the passing of those resolutions is in alignment with the district's mission, vision, and goals. What about the board's goals? I remember a discussion of them at a previous meeting. They were focused on student outcomes. Have they been formally adopted by this board? Are you ensuring that your decisions are in alignment with your goals? What questions is the board asking about current programs in place and how they are impacting student outcomes? What data is being looked at to show the merits of particular programs and educational materials being used? When voting on resolutions, do you know the merits of that item and how it will positively impact student achievement? If you vote yes, how will you know it is having the desired outcome? How will it be monitored? What data will you look at to know that the taxpayer money is being well spent? In the policy manual, under the fiscal management section, policy number 6000 is titled Fiscal Management Goals. Goal number 9 says, to the extent possible, program evaluation shall be used to assess the effectiveness of all educational programs provided to district students, and future appropriations shall be adjusted accordingly. This is how a school board provides oversight, on both student outcomes and the finances of the district. This is how a school board ensures a district is being run properly. This is how the board ensures that the money in the budget is being allocated appropriately. The next thing I want to speak on is the relationship between the school board and the superintendent. I cannot emphasize enough how important it is for this to be a collaborative relationship. You are a governance team. This is not an us versus them relationship. When you work together, your collective goals can be achieved. I know that this governance team wants to see positive student outcomes. I know that this team wants to see the graduation rate increase. I know that this team wants to see reading scores increase and have every scholar graduate with the ability to read and write proficiently. I know that this team wants to see a significant decrease in chronic absenteeism and absenteeism as a whole. But you must work together. If you don't work together, student achievement will be negatively impacted. I guarantee it. If you continue to be in the business of right fighting and struggling over power and control, our students will lose. I promise you that. You are losing valuable time when not focusing your agenda on student outcomes. And yes, the superintendent is your employee, but she's also your teammate. She's not your subordinate. That's not what this relationship is. Yes, you get to set the vision, a clear vision of what you want to see for this district. But then you need to step back and you need to let her plan how she is going to get there. You don't get to tell her how to do it. You get to monitor the progress in reaching those goals. And at the end of the day, you get to evaluate her. That's what oversight of a school board looks like.
The next person signed up to speak is Mr. Ronaldo Santiago.
Good evening, Superintendent, members of the board. Before I begin, I just wanted to point out that the last time I stood here during my comments, I had tried to sing the praises of some staff and faculty who so richly deserved it. I was admonished for my efforts. That being said, I just want to assure this body that I will do my utmost not to make that mistake again. With that out of the way, I did want to bring up a name not from our school district, but a member of our community, Reverend Ernie Mosel. At the last board meeting, we all heard Reverend Mosel pleading with this body to contact him to address some of the actions from our students from NFA. Now, I'm not a terribly religious man myself, but I had always been brought up, as I suspect most of us were, with a great respect for the clergy. I found it appalling that some of our students would conduct themselves in the manner that Reverend Mosel spoke of, fighting, sexual acts on church grounds, and intimidating a clergyman. This is an anathema to just about every value we are supposed to be teaching our children. I spoke to Reverend Mosel over the weekend to make sure that this board had followed up with him. Imagine my disappointment when he had told me that his phone calls and emails remain unanswered. Now, he did praise some school personnel that had previously been trying to help him address these issues, but again, I don't want to break the rules, but he did make it quite clear that this board has made no contact. I implore this board to reach out and communicate with this man. How can we hail ourselves an organization? How can we hail this organization as a pillar of the community when someone from that same community reaches out for help for a matter completely within our purview and we play ostrich? Why not turn this into a teachable moment for the students involved? That church has almost 150 years worth of history within this community. Do the students know this? All the Reverend is asking for is an answer to a phone call or an email. Let's use this as an opportunity to utilize the principles of diversity and inclusion that we espouse to educate these young minds. This is how we build productive members of our community that also grow to have a healthy respect for the history within this community. Isn't creating strategic partnerships with community stakeholders a core principle of our district? Please reach out and let's build a bridge we can walk these students across to give them a chance to learn the principles we purport to teach here. Good morals and respect, not only for self, but for others. Thank you.
The next person signed up to speak is Mr. Matthew Houghton.
Good evening. I'm Matthew Houghton from the town of Newburgh. I'm here tonight to talk about the football program as well. With such severe action, I really want to know why there was such severe action. At this point, it's been over a month and we don't have any answers yet. And I really would like to know what went down so that we know why the action was taken and what is going to happen moving forward. Because I was a student athlete at Newburgh myself, and if any of you were as well, you know these students work their tails off all year round. These sports aren't just the season that they play in, but they start training and working far earlier on in the year than the season even begins, and some of them their entire lives for that moment to get to the varsity stage or wherever they're at. And those moments that they were robbed of was, for better or worse, moments that they'll remember forever with their friends that they'll have forever. And, you know, they were robbed of that opportunity and we don't even know why. The seniors didn't get to have the opportunity to even know that they were playing in their final game. Something, like I said, that they worked their entire lives for, and it's been over a month at this point. and it would be nice if we can understand what happened. I'd wished even if something bad did happen, I had wished we could have taken more swift action and allowed them to play. If suspensions have to happen, suspensions have to happen, but we robbed those kids of that opportunity, and I wish we could have allowed them to play and find a way to play the game. They worked so hard for it, and it's a shame that they didn't get that opportunity. You know, we don't know what happened, so I don't know who was involved or how many or whatnot, but what message does it send when the action of a few people or whatever it was can affect so many? So many people have, you know, their year wrecked, all their hard work nullified because of the actions of a few. That's not a message that I would want to send. At this point where we sit now, we still have no information. We don't even know the coaches' roles are hanging in the balance. We don't know who's coaching the football program right now. Football is an all-year affair. It's starting now. I mean, after winter recess, I think they start organized practices and workouts. They do not even know who their coach is going to be. I'm a part of the youth football program with the Goldbacks, and you know, we send our kids up every year happily knowing that they're going to be in good hands moving on. A lot of those coaches were there when I was in school, and they coached me, and they played very influential roles in my life as an athlete and as becoming a person, becoming a man. And I think they're great people, and they do a good job, and they've had a lot of success on and off the field. And if something, you know, they were involved with happened, you know, we need to know. But if they weren't directly if they weren't directly responsible for what happened, they need to be reinstated and get ready to go back to work, because I mean, they care about these kids. They look after them all year long. They work with them all year long. So it's been a month. When can we expect to know what happened, and when are they going to know who their coaches are? Because like I said, right after winter recess, they need to get back. They need to get back to work, and the coaches are going to play a major role. And I think they do a good job, and they should be reinstated if you know, if they're not responsible for what happened. I would like to know, and can we get a time of when we will know? Yeah, I mean, not knowing also has led to a lot of rumors and nonsense that would be nice to get put to bed quickly, because some people's characters are being destroyed, and that's not good. I mean, it's for an incident. I just wish we could have got an answer by now. Thank you.
The next person signed up to speak on non-agenda items is Ms. Tracy Wallace.
Oh, sorry, I forgot. I didn't know if I signed up or not. I guess you put me down. Tracy Wallace, City of Newburgh. I was trying to look up the law before I got here. I just didn't have enough time. I'm questioning, and now I have the law, and I don't have your agenda on my phone. I don't know which number it is, but it's you're deciding on being involved in criminal acts with the students. I don't have it in front of me, but curious to know why the school board is requesting that the superintendent give them, hold on, I gotta read it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, this is comment on non-agenda items right now.
I can't comment on agenda items during non-agenda?
No.
Say once. So that, I mean, even if you, so I can't comment on the criminal and question why you're voting to be involved in criminal activity when the police should really be doing that? Okay.
The next person signed up to speak on non-agenda items is Ms. Sade Burks.
Good Good evening again, Sade Burks, resident of the city of Newburgh. I want to speak on a few non-agenda items. A couple of meetings ago, I came, actually, I think it was like one of y'all, it was a few meetings back. But anyway, there was a young lady sitting here, and she was complaining, well, not complaining, she was voicing how discouraged she was because she played cheerleading, she did cheerleading, and she wasn't able to participate in cheerleading because of her absentees and so on and so forth. She also explained that she reached out to guidance counselors, so on, to see, where she was at and what she would have to do, and nobody reached out to her. Then I watched as a board member, expressed her disgust in how, things were handled, and that the young lady missed out on her opportunity to now chair this season. And then I watched another board member come and say how even if they wanted to intervene, because of a policy that was set in place last year by new board members, that she wouldn't be able to intervene. And I remember last year having the same conversation with this board member that expressed how disgusted she was with this cheerleading not being able to be involved. And I expressed to her, this policy that is trying to be pushed through will negatively impact the student. So then to sit here and watch that student cry and be upset, and then to watch the same board member that I speak to come in her defense, it showed me the transparency that this board member had. It showed me that, okay, she cares about what's going on. She sees how when decisions are made, if they're not thought about on how they will impact the students, that it can negatively impact the student. I can't call names, so I'm not going to call names, even though when these rules are set, not calling names, not involving religion, not making threats are set and forth, certain people come up here and do it, and the gavel is not banged, but I will be sure not to do that because I don't want the gavel banged. But I'm going to look directly at the board member, and I'm going to say thank you for taking your time out to acknowledge that that policy affected this student negatively. I'm also going to say, be mindful. I know last week, a couple of weeks ago, someone came up here and made a threat. Be mindful, there are people watching. That's a direct threat. No gavel was banged, nothing was banged on them. So now you're threatening your board members that if they don't make certain decisions, that maybe they won't get reelected the next election. Maybe there are other board members that came on with their ticket are going to turn against them. That's not fair to the board member if that board member is acting out of kindness in her heart and is particularly acting towards the needs of the student and showing her sensitivity to the needs of the student. So to come up here and threaten her and ostracize her and other board members that are now making the right decision, I think that is unfair. And that's unfortunately that you only bang the gavel on who you want to bang it on, because we just had someone sit up here and say, I don't want to break the rules and call names, but, and you turn around and break the rule and call names. The same person, said person called my name a couple of weeks ago and the gavel wasn't banged on him. Another situation that I would like to address is this football situation. I don't know everything about it. All I know is someone was hurt and then consequences and repercussions were put in place. But all I keep hearing the community saying is, when is the kids going to play again? When are they going to come off suspension? Why weren't the coaches held accountable? No one really knows what's going on. We understand that we can't be privy to all of the information because of legal actions. But as a football mom and a parent of this district, I do understand how they feel, being that their kids have worked this hard. Football season is a major season. It's a big season for everyone. We come out to see the boys play. We come out to encourage the students. I also haven't heard anybody show remorse for the kid that was involved and the kid that got hurt. That is unfortunate too. There was a kid hurt. We don't know to the max of how the kid was hurt because it wasn't put out there. But we do know there was a kid hurt. So to that parent, I would like to say sorry. And for the parents of the children on the football team, I just would like, for there to be some kind of transparency. Even if you can't give us all, just give us some answers so we'll know who's coaching these kids. When are the kids coming back? We have seniors that are suspended. When are they going to come back so they can finish their senior year? When is everything going to be set back in place so the kids that do have the senior year, that they can have a successful senior year? That's all. Have a good night.
The next person signed up to speak on non-agenda items is Miss Carly Johnson.
Hello. Good evening. Carla Johnson, City of Newburgh.
So I don't really come up here much, only when I got problems. So I feel that, I don't know I know Ms. Coins is the person head of transportation. There's a lot of bullying going on these buses. One problem I have is, there's no seatbelts on the bus. When my kid get in my car, she has to have a seatbelt on. For safety reasons, I believe that all the kids should be buckled in. The bus driver has the camera as extra eyes, as he's the driver, and you got kids coming down, just say First Street, they all jumping around, yelling and screaming, throwing stuff out the window, using harsh words. Then you got K through 5 on the same bus, pre-K and kindergarten kids being exposed to fifth graders on the bus, big kids. I just think that if you can, some of these buses need monitors. So when my child get on the bus, she should be able to be big enough to put her own seatbelt on. But if they don't know how, there's somebody there to assist them, like matron on the bus. That boys and girls bus is crazy. There's a lot of bullying going on. So I'm using all of the resources, speaking to Mr. Gawaki, speaking to Mrs. Coins, and now I'm here speaking to you all. So I just think that should be changes on the bus. The boys and girls, when school, it's a privilege to take the bus. I understand that. What I don't understand is, well, what I think should happen is when you guys partner with the boys and girls, when they do their presentations, they should have a picture of the bus saying like, hey, it's a privilege to come here. You have to behave, however y'all work it out with the whole system. But I just think that my daughter needs a seatbelt on. She go on the bus. There should be a matron on some of these buses for safety reasons. My daughter has a lot of problems on the bus. No, I'm not gonna go to the bus, bang on no windows, curse no bus driver out, but this is my last resort here. Is the hope that you guys, she already having problems being a brown girl. Look at the way y'all treat that brown lady there. So what I'm saying is this, I'm her battle. She's my child. I'm coming with no questions asked. So I'm being polite and hoping that everyone understands that when I have a problem, you listen to me when it comes to my child in the school district. When I grew up, they put special education on my mother because my mother was on heroin and they wanted to see the check. So I was labeled all kind of shit because it was for the money. Y'all not labeling her no way, no how. I'm her biggest advocate. I fight for her. Mr. Gawaki's doing an excellent job. We're helping her and me and in GAMS where I switched her to. I just want to see some changes on them buses. I want to see monitors on the buses. Some kind of something on teaching them how to put the seatbelts on. Everybody here know when y'all get in the car, first thing y'all do is put your seatbelt on for safety. It's big buses, them kids gonna fly everywhere. If she had a seatbelt on, she might not fly everywhere. Thank you.
The last person signed up to speak on non-agenda items is Ms. Victoria Boucher.
Thank you. I chose to speak tonight because I heard some comments, and I know that I'm not allowed to directly make an answer to anybody, but I would like to make a general statement that when I ran for the Board of Education, things are 1,000% different than I thought they were. That's just the truth. With that being said, there was a comment made about responding to emails. I would like someone to clarify this for me, and this is why I wanted to say it publicly. I was told that I was not allowed to respond to an email. So if I'm not allowed to respond to an email, who responds to the public? And people are annoyed and they're upset and they're frustrated and they think that, number one, we don't respond, we don't care, and that's just not the truth. I just need to know, when are we allowed to respond? I know the process we've gone through. I didn't think there was an issue with it. I don't think there is an issue with it, but the public is having an issue with it. So how do we address that? That would be my first question. And then my second question, again, I have tried my hardest to work collaboratively with everyone in this room, as well as the community. And it's not easy to be a member of the community with a young child that is going to participate in sports. I myself have gone to many Youth Goldback events, and people talk. So I don't want anyone to think that they're not heard, but legally, we are not allowed to respond to certain things. And it's not the reasoning that we don't want to respond, it's just that we cannot do it. So that's my piece on that.
The 30 minutes has expired for non-agenda items. There's nobody else signed up.
So I'll turn it over to the superintendent for the superintendent's update.
Tonight, we have several presentations, so I will be very brief. I would like to express my sincere thanks to dozens of community organizations and volunteers who have contributed to the opportunity for families throughout our district to have an amazing Thanksgiving meal. We all play valuable roles in supporting our scholars. This is just one example of ways that our community pulls together to support one another. I'd also like to say thank you to Ms. Wallace for organizing our SEPTA. Thank you very much. That was a Herculean task. Kudos to you. You pulled together many of the PTAs, and you're working, and we are supporting this endeavor. So thank you very much for doing that. I hope each and every one of you has a joyful and healthy Thanksgiving recess. May this time provide an opportunity to reflect on all that we have to be grateful for and inspire us to think about how we each can make a positive impact on our Goldback community. Thank you. Item 4.2, Ms. Roaring.
Thank you. Good evening. This evening, we're going to have several presentations focused on the operations of the district. Just to provide some additional information, Mr. Velez will be presenting on facilities. Ms. Coyne will be presenting on transportation. I will provide some information on the business office, and we will wrap up our presentations this evening regarding a capital project update. Mr. Velez.
Good evening, Dr. Campbell, member of the board, and members of the cabinet. Tonight, we're going to talk about the operations department. Before I start going through the presentation, I want to tell you all that our team is a team that is in the schools at 5:30 in the morning. When most of us are in our houses getting ready to send the kids to schools to go to work. They are in the schools. At NFA, by 5:45, the lights are on. 6 in the morning, deliveries start showing up. Milk, food service, all the stuff that we need to run the schools start showing up between 6 and 6:30. So we are the team that open the schools, get them ready, and receive the kids every single morning. During the day, we have people in the schools, and you're going to see how many staff members we have in all the buildings. They just work all day with the kids, cleaning cafeterias, making sure the building is ready. If something happened, an accident, they take care of it. Our operations department, some of them, especially in the heating season, are in the schools at 4 in the morning. If something happened with the heating, we get an email by 3 a.m., this building don't have heat. That happened this morning at NFA. So we have 3 guys that show up at NFA at 5:15 to make sure that the days was on. So our team is a team that nobody sees, and everybody expects them to do their work. But if we don't, you will know. So we have to be on and right all the time to get the schools ready. So with that, I'm going to start the presentation. I'm going to give you a quick overview. The first slide is going to be the district staff. Our department has 120 employees. 28 of them are based at Chestnut. Those are the maintenance guys that come in at 7 and go do all the repairs and all the maintenance of all the fields and all the district properties. Here we have the 28 people that report to Chestnut in the morning. I'm the executive director of the team. I have a principal typist and a bilingual typist. Under us, we have a HVAC supervisor. This is the person that takes care of all the heating and cooling. 2 mechanics, 2 electricians, 2 plumbers, and 1 maintenance person that works Wednesday to Sunday. Why he worked Wednesday to Sunday? We had to check the buildings in the weekend. When there's no one there, things can go wrong. So this person comes Saturdays and Sundays, and he visits every single building, make sure the heat is on, everything is locked. And believe you me, almost every weekend my phone rings, there's a problem somewhere. And we have to get people to take care of it. Also, we have three-skill maintenance. Those are the guys that do most of the repairs in the schools. If they cannot handle it, we have to call a contractor. We have a mason that takes care of all the sidewalks and all the concrete and sheetrocks around the school. 3 painters that do a fantastic job. I'm going to show you pictures later of all the work that they do. 2 courier cleaners. These 2 gentlemen are the people that collect all the mail in the schools twice a day. They bring it to Chestnut, they sort it out, they go back to the school. Anything that had to go out, they go to the post office. If we had to deliver a letter, personal letter, they'll go take it. These 2 individuals leave Chestnut at 7:15 in the morning, come back around 2:45 to process all the mail to take it to the post office by 3:15. We have 1 driver that do deliveries to all the schools. We have a warehouse, and every day we get shipment, and they have to go out. We have 1 person to do that. We have a storekeeper, that's the title, but that's the person that runs the warehouse. So every day, there's trucks coming into Chestnut with different things for different schools. We receive it, we fill the paperwork, and we send it to all the schools. Whether it's here or the other 15 buildings, it goes out. I have 1 maintenance foreman and 6 ground members. The maintenance foreman is a working supervisor. He worked with the ground crew to make sure that grass is cut in 295 acres of land. The athletic fields are ready all the time. If it's now, they're there at 5 in the morning to make sure that everything is clean if we're opening on time. So when I spoke with Dr. Campbell at 5 a.m. and we put a delay, I called them that we got to go now. So I'm sure the schools are ready with a 2-hour delay. The second team that we have is the people at the schools. These are the custodians and cleaners in each building. They're run by our chief custodian. She was appointed a few weeks ago. And, can you go back one? So each building, I have the number of staff members. If you have any questions, you go, but that's all the staff that we have in every school. I have some information about our buildings. I know some of you have asked me about the age of the building, what do we do with all the schools. So here I put a slide that has each school in the left. The second line is the square footage of each individual building. The third row is the year of construction that is in blue. That's the year that the schools were built. We have buildings that are over 100 years old. And then next to it, you see where we put all the additions to each building. The next line is all the custodial staff that usually for this is by building. And then the last line is the size of the property by acreage. So we own 295 acres of land. And we have to take care of it with 7 guys. So those guys are busy. We come in the morning, by 7:15 they leave Chestnut, and again they come back around 3:15 to go home. We have a work order system. It's called Master Libraries. It's similar to the old one that we have, School Dude. Here we have all the work orders that we have received from July 1st to today. It's almost 1,400 work orders. You see that 82% are completed, 80% of them, as for deliveries, are picked up in the school. The slide on the right gives you the percentages of everything that we've done, was assigned. There's 50 that are others that come to us. Sometimes they're for technology, sometimes it's for another department, so we forward them. And then when you see the ones that are canceled, we get requests, believe it or not, that are for capital projects. People want to get, an addition to the school, a new bathroom. I had to cancel those, and then we had to plan to go forward and first go to Kimberly and then come to Superintendent and then to you to do those. These are the breakdown of the work orders by building. The one on the left is NFA, so you can see that that's the one that get most of the work order, is the biggest building. NFA is almost 500,000 square feet and 5,000 people in that building every day, between students, staff, and visitors. And then as you go down to NFA West, our smallest building, have the small number of work orders. And we address those every single day. So when a member go out with a work order and they return, they let me know if it's completed, if they need parts. If I had to buy something special, I call Miss Roaring. Every Thursday I come with good news, and sometimes by news I need more money, and she loves that. So that's what we do every day. The next slide I want to show you is some of the projects that we did this summer. This is some of the big projects we did, because we have 1,400 work orders. NFA North, the cupola, needed some restoration. So I worked with Dr. Campbell and Kimberly to get the funds to get that cupola restored. We renovated the elevators in Fullerton School and Temple Hill. That was full renovation, motor, equipment. The only thing they did not replace is the car, and the car is what you go up and down. Every wire, every single piece of equipment inside that elevator was replaced. At NFA Main, the West Wing had a new roof installed. I came to the board in June and asked for emergency resolution. Thank you for approving it. The work was done in 6 weeks. And then before we started the work, we took all the solar panels out, and we just finished putting all the solar panels last week. The roof comes with 30 years. I hope it doesn't leak for 30 years, because sometimes things go wrong. At NFA Main, we had a greenhouse. It hasn't been used in over 30 years. And it was decaying, it was in rough shape. We removed that, and when we fixed the roof, we fixed that area so there's no leaks in the cafeteria below. Guinea Avenue School, you all know that the first day of school, we were replacing the water main in the building. Something happened, and we have a convocation, and we came back, and we were there until 8 o'clock at night to make sure the school was ready for the next day for our students. At South Middle School, we did a full renovation of the library. All the old shelves were removed, it was painted, new floor, we fixed the lighting. We're waiting for some of the shelving to come now, but the library looked brand new. For a library that was 70 years old, you'll see it's even a brand new floor, so we're very proud of that. NFA Main, we paint every hallway and every bathroom. We paint hallways and bathrooms in 3 other schools. I'm going to show you pictures later. But NFA, even though we have summer school there, we have to work around it. The lobby in NFA, we painted every day. This year we painted with the school colors. It looked really, really nice. We also did repairs to the auditorium. There was a leak in the auditorium. And that building was built in 1927. We had to match the artwork on top and the decorations. One of our painters came from New York City. He fixed them all. He knows how to make them with foam, put them back, painted. It looked like original. So we did that work. At Garnetown School, we installed a playground in the back of the school for our most needed students in the back of the school. You're going to see pictures of that playground. That was finished 3 weeks ago. We ordered that playground in April of last year. It just came and it was installed. That's the cupola NFA North after we finished with the painting. That's Bombville hallways. We painted every hallway and every bathroom at Bombville School and few offices and about 5 classrooms. That's the new playground. I know, I got to move fast. That's the new playground for the students with disabilities. They can use the playground in their wheelchairs. We have a ribbon cutting ceremony for that very soon. That's all the pictures of that playground. This is Fullerton School. We painted all the hallways. The slide on the right looked like it's sideways, so I'm sorry about that. So if you do this, you can see it. This is Fullerton School, the rest of the hallways, and the cafeteria. We painted the cafeteria in August. This is the lobby NFA with the school colors. Bathrooms at NFA and more hallways. Some of the board members ask me about solar panels all the time. We talk about solar panels. So I have some pictures of solar panels in the school. We have solar panels in 10 buildings, over 10,000 solar panels. This is Fullerton School. There's 225 there. This is NFA Main. The next few pictures are NFA. There's, I think it's 4,000 solar panels at that building. They are working, they're generating energy. We're saving a ton of money. That was done through the energy performance contract. We talked about when we build a new building, we might install solar panels. That's going to be next. So that's another picture of NFA. NFA, except for the gym, the entire roof is covered in solar panels. Any questions?
Mr. Stewart?
Thank you. That was a very good presentation. I see some of our buildings are really getting up there in age. Which one do you find the most challenging?
Not by age because of the size, NFA.
NFA.
NFA is almost 500,000 square feet. So it's a lot of work in that building. It's like its own, I call it, we have a district and then we have NFA because that's what we do a lot of the work. The building is huge, yes.
Yeah, then a follow-up on that. I'm looking at the staff per square feet. Do you feel you have enough staff to cover everything? And what about if people are out sick? Do you have backup?
We always want to have more people, but we have budget constraints. So the night crew, they clean about 25,000 square feet a person. So if you look at a building like NFA with 20 staff members, just half of them work on days, the other half on night. They crew clean some areas, the night crew clean all the classrooms. Some schools, like Bombville School, it's very small, so we have 3. Right now, with the people that we have, we managing, we have subs. People call sick, we have about 14 subs. They come to work, and they pick the jobs every day through WinCap. So if somebody called in sick, they call WinCap, and it show up. Their phones or computers can in, and the subs come into work. Sometimes if we don't have subs, if we don't have enough, we'll bring people on Saturday to get the school ready for Monday.
Mr. DeRay.
Just a comment. I've known you for some time, and one of the things I enjoy doing most as a board member is going through the schools. And I love meeting people, seeing the kids, things like that. But I often comment on how clean our schools are, and I realize how old they are. I mean, when I was just looking, I think the youngest school is 50 years old, so, or 54. So I think you do an amazing job, and I think your staff does an amazing job. Just publicly, I want to thank you for your job. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Leamer.
One of the areas of repair that was not on the slide, for which I am personally grateful, is the ladies' room in this building, which wasn't touched in the last 50 years, and now it is a new bathroom for us, so that is much appreciated, Mr. Velez.
Mr. Howard.
Thank you, Madam President. So, Andy, your team does an incredible job, but I need to ask you a question. So, I've been here forever. I'm born and raised in this district since 1962, but when does it become non-cost effective to continue to put Band-Aids on wounds? And I say that because at what point are we going to need new structures? Because some of these structures are so outdated. Even when you do repairs, the repairs need repairs, and those repairs need repairs, and it's like a continuum. So can you talk to me about the Band-Aid on the wounds and what's the plans going forward?
We evaluate the buildings every 5 years. We do an evaluation with architects. We visit all the schools. It's called the BCS, Building Condition Survey. And through that process, we check all the schools, every room. We do a report that goes to the superintendent and Kimberly and to the board. And that's how we develop capital projects. I'm going to give you a good example. The New Windsor School main building, the tower, that was built in 1910, we took it down 5 years ago because through all those inspections, you can see that the building is failing. Right now, we're evaluating one other building that we might have problems in the future. But that's how we develop the bonds. If you give me $10 million a year, I promise you I spend it because our buildings are old. But we try to maintain them with what we have. NFA, in 3 years, is going to be 100 years old. But we do renovations. Every 15, 20 years, a lot of the schools get renovation. NFA was renovated in 2008. That's when we put the additions to Bombville and New Windsor. So when we do all these evaluations, we come up with a set of projects and we go out to a bond and we do the major repairs in the school. Since I'm here for almost 24 years, we have replaced every roof in every school. And believe it or not, every roof in every building is over 20 years old, and I'm only here 24, so imagine how they were before. But we keep maintaining the building. It's not an easy task, but we have to do it for our kids.
I'm going to add a little bit to that. So we're going to be completing the building condition survey next year, and that is also filed with SED, so they know the conditions of our buildings, which is very helpful when we come forward and say we need to do some major renovations in some of those areas. So we anticipate over the next 12 months or so, we'll be having more substantive conversations with the board and our community about what the needs of some of our buildings are.
Ms. Boucher.
Hi, so I have two things. I do want to make a comment as well. I went to the convocation, and on the way home from the convocation, I found out about what happened at GAMS. And you turned that around without a hiccup. So thank you for that. I appreciate you because not many people can do that. I would panic, so there's that. My second question is, who does all the plowing for the snow? Is it at
Our ground crew, the 7 people in the ground crew.
those 7 people?
We have trucks and plows, and if one of them is sick, I have all the guys that can plow, yes.
How many schools do we have total? 12?
14 schools, 16
7
buildings.
people,
Yes.
14 schools. Okay.
Mr. Howard.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm glad you said that. That opened the door, because I had a question and I need an answer. So our sports fields,
Yes.
conditioning, mowing, making sure that they're prepared for events, making sure that our scholar athletes are playing in safe environments. I know we say they are, but sometimes our playing surfaces are not up to par. And I was told, I'm going to use the I was told on you, that we have one person that's taking care of all of our fields?
All 7 guys working on the field. One person do all the lines and get the fields ready for games.
Yeah.
That's one person that do the lines, but all the 7 guys in the ground crew.
Because we were
maintain
having
all the
some
field.
situations recently, spring sports, where the fields weren't prepared properly for softball, girls softball, and someone was saying that the manpower, do we have a manpower shortage in that area?
We had a problem with one field. We had that. Kimberly and I have been talking about it. We met with the athletic director, and we're coming up with solutions. Our fields, I'm not going to say they're not properly maintained, but we don't have enough people to make them look like Yankee Stadium, because I would love to
And I
have them
get
like
that, and I understand that.
I would love that. But one person I know the field, they all cut grass, they all get ready. I know that Kimberly and I met with the athletic department. I believe Onyx was with us. And we're coming up with a plan to address the baseball field in Guinea Island School. We're coming up with a plan to fix that.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Boucher.
So I'm going to piggyback off of Mr. Howard. So essentially, Mr. Stewart had asked if you were fully staffed. So when I sit on the board, I look at what services the students. So you wouldn't be upset if there were more positions in your department? You can say I just choose not to answer. Listen,
No,
I
no,
get it.
it's not upset.
You
It's
wouldn't be
challenging.
upset?
No, it's challenging, and we have lost some staff over the past few years to project cost and attrition, but we're managing what we have.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yeah, I noticed you said you had a warehouse and a warehouseman. Where's the warehouse at?
At Chestnut, 20 Chestnut Street,
How big is the warehouse?
5,000 square feet.
Okay, that's pretty
And
good size.
another 2,000 that we have the building, the district print shop inside the warehouse. So we print a lot of our stuff there and we send it to the schools.
Is that big enough?
For what we do, yes.
Okay.
Mr. Howard?
So just for clarification, I wasn't attacking you when
That's
I
all right.
asked that question. My question was, and I'm glad she followed up on it, do we need more people to do the work that needs to be done? And I asked that because we're coming up on budget season, and we really need to know what we need or where our priorities should be. And a lot of times, like I've been here for a long time, a lot of times our priorities are our priorities, but at the end of the day, our kids deserve A-plus facilities. Our kids deserve A-plus fields, conditioning, and everything. Because I see it at other schools in our area, and I got to tell you, when I go to some of these away games, I feel real small sitting in the stands, looking at what other schools provide for their children, for their scholars and their athletes. And I know we're busting our tail here, but I want our kids to be on par with every school in Orange County. That's just me. I'm a gold back. I bleed blue and gold. And I think our kids deserve it. So I'm asking you, I know you got your boss in front of you. I know, but...
One in front and one in the back.
All right, but I guess what Victoria is saying, and I guess Mr. Stewart, you know, we want our kids to have what they need to have to be successful and to be the best that they can be. Sometimes that doesn't align with the bottom line, but I'm just going to say, as a board member, I'm pro-child, I'm pro-kid, I'm pro-scholar. Our kids deserve the best. So I need you to let us know where we need to be to make those things happen so that we don't have those situations that we recently had.
I agree with you, everything you said, and I will have a conversation with Dr. Manning Campbell and Kimberly during the budget process, and they will come to you during budget season. I'm not going to sit here, I need 20 people or 5 people, we're going to discuss that through the project. I don't, yeah. So it's a budget process. We have to prioritize the needs of the district.
Think about it.
He is.
Yeah. I meet with Kimberly every Thursday. And she looked forward when I walked in there with my list. I work here, I cannot run for.
Closed mouths don't get fed.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you.
Ms. Coyne will be presenting on transportation next.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Dr. Manning Campbell, board members. My name is Patricia Coyne. I am the transportation coordinator for the district, and I'm happy to tell you a little bit about our transportation department. Okay, some fast facts here, not included on this slide, but very important, is the 4 members of our transportation team that we have in the district. They are amazing people, dedicated to smoothly running our buses every day. We work with 5 contracted school bus companies who do a good job accommodating our dynamic school district and keeping our scholars safe on the bus. Every day, our buses travel 410 round trips. That's 820 trips a day, using 195 buses. 820 trips every day. I think we have some issues that have been already addressed and spoken about, but for 820 trips a day, I think our percentage is really good in keeping our children safe. We process about 1,400 alternate stop forms a day, which are changes to locations where students will be picked up or dropped off, basically for babysitter stops. Right now, this year, we have processed 850 and going. These changes are typical in the district of this size. We say change, adapt, and find solutions. Our transportation department, including our contractors, are well-versed in change, adapt, and find solutions. Transportation laws and regulations. So New York State pupil transportation must follow laws and regulations from several different organizations, including but not limited to the New York State Department of Motor Vehicles, the New York State Department of Transportation, Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, and the New York State Education Department. School bus training. All school bus staff, monitors, attendants, and bus drivers are well-trained professionals. These are some of the things that they have to go through. This is not all the training, and to address something that was brought up by Ms. Wallace earlier, special education transportation is a part of their training. They spend several hours going over that, and their refresher every year, as it's stated on the slide, 4 hours each year. One of those hours must be dedicated to the transportation of special education students. We have annual medical examination for drivers, physical performance tests. Some people are not aware that drivers and attendants have to pass a physical performance test just to show that they are physically able to drive a bus or evacuate a bus in the case of emergency and help students. The drivers are subjected to pre-employment and random drug and alcohol screening. And additionally, in addition to all this, we do our own training. We did a training in June of 2023 on student management, which also included a large piece on transporting students with special needs. This year, we're planning on doing training on de-escalation, something that I think that is needed for just about everybody. So, transportation procurement. We're in the second year of a 5-year contract with our bus vendors, and bids are put out each year for our athletics and summer transportation. Where we transport. So we transport to a lot of different areas. Okay, so next, yeah. So in the district, we have a 3-tier system, as well as late buses for the high schools and middle schools. We have UPK buses, but unlike the other district schools, the UPK transportation works in school zones. We have 4 UPK programs in our district schools and 5 programs in our community-based organizations. private and parochial schools. So SED requires transportation for private and parochial schools up to 15 miles. Our district allows students who live up to 18 miles from their private or parochial school. This was approved by a voter proposition in 2019. Our private school requests for transportation must be received by April 1st of each year in accordance with SED regulations. We send notifications to families to remind them of the deadline in January, February, and March. Our exceptional learners can be placed in schools up to 50 miles from their home. We currently use 45 vehicles to transport up to 59 placements located in Westchester, Rockland, Ulster, Dutchess, Putnam, Orange, and Sullivan counties. Placements can change throughout the year, so we make the change, adapt the routes, and find solutions to run them as efficiently and safely as possible. Our scholars in temporary housing and foster care. We also transport up to 50 miles for our scholars in the foster care system or that are living in temporary housing. The location and number of scholars in this circumstance changes frequently. This is one of our biggest challenges for the department. We often have just one or two of our scholars in a vehicle, and sometimes that vehicle must travel a long distance, which makes it unavailable to do other routes before or after. We adapt and combine the routes and make the most efficient use of the vehicles. Okay, so last year, we provided transportation for 850 scholars in several after-school and Saturday programs using 69 vehicles. We ran 33 late buses to secondary schools and provided transportation for our alternative instruction programs. This year, we currently have 4 schools hosting the 21st Century After-School program. The alternative instruction program changes daily, depending on which scholars are attending. There is a bus for evening school portion of that program as well. The transportation team processes approximately 500 field trips every year. When I say processes, this basically means we obtain quotes, we make changes, we request purchase orders, we find the lowest price, offer that to the group that's going on the field trip, we review the invoices, and we process them for payment. We also do approximately 200 or actually even 300 athletic trips are bid every year. Then there are about 100 additions made, and that does not even include changes because due to things like weather, availability of fields, athletics is always changing. We're always having to find different kind of transportation for our teams. Our extended school year, we have a very busy summer program in the transportation department. During the summer, we transport as many scholars as some smaller districts do during the school year. Last summer, we brought 216 scholars to 29 out-of-district schools using 34 vehicles. In district, we provided transportation for 187 exceptional learners to 3 schools in 10 vehicles. 4,500 scholars were enrolled in 16 in-district programs using 65 vehicles. So, the transportation department is a dynamic department. It takes a great deal of collaboration between the transportation department, the schools, and the bus companies to keep the buses always moving forward. We change, adapt, and find solutions to support the education of our scholars. Thank you for your time. Anybody have a question? Okay.
Ms. Boucher.
Hi, I might have you for a minute. So this is a big job, and I understand that. I have had conversation with you, and I thank you for that. I do have a couple questions. Being a mom, the #1 priority in my life is my kid. And I'm entrusting the district to transport my son twice a day back and forth to school. So one of my questions is, what is an acceptable time for a 4-year-old to be on the bus in the morning and in the afternoon?
The state education department doesn't have a time limit set. There are no legal requirements. I really can't.
But would you say 2 hours is too much?
Ms. Peterson.
So I think we know as a district, there's some larger concerns around the structure and scheduling that don't just fall on transportation.
Right.
And I do also think that there's going to be certain recommendations that as a cabinet, we're all going to make regarding, because we do understand that there are concerns about the length and time and the route lengths that impact students and impact families. But there are larger concerns, some that are, I know that in several things that Mrs. Coyne spoke about this evening, we're managing a system that has been in place for a very long time. And some aspects of changing any part of that system is going to require the board and the community's support. So we really have to think about that lens when we're talking about those things and how our schools and our programs are structured to best support, academics and families.
And I thank you for that, and I understand that. But I, again, have to emphasize how important transportation is with our kids. Again, I don't even trust some of my family members to drive my son around. So it is, like I said, it's a huge job, and we have a lot of children, but there are a couple things you said that stuck out to me. Is the lowest bidder you had up there.
For athletics in summer, yeah.
So when it comes down to our children, I wouldn't mind having discussion with the board on paying whatever amount of money I have to pay to make sure the best company is driving my son around. I have no problem with that. So there's that. There was also something about random drug screens. Who determines who does the random drug screen?
What do you mean, who does it?
Is it the company or is it the district?
No, it's mandated by the FMCSA.
So if there was a complaint to be made and someone was making an accusation of drug use or intoxication, and someone did not perform a random,
Well, that wouldn't be random if there was an accusation. It would be something that would be a reasonable suspicion. So in reasonable suspicion, somebody who is trained in how to detect, somebody that reasonably may be intoxicated, they would send them to be tested if they believed they were.
right? So again, I'm entrusting the district that, because we outsource, how many bus companies do we have that bid?
Right now, 5.
Right, so that's a lot of people to handle, and I understand that mistakes are made that aren't falling on the district. But what is a parent's role when the district can't do something about it and the company's not answering the phone? I've had people calling me on Facebook Messenger saying, no one's answering my phone calls. My son is this, my daughter's this. That's the frustrating part, is because now, and I understand the first day of school is difficult. You're learning and I get it. But time frame, communication, all of those things I want to make sure we're working on, because just letting me know that the bus left or not knowing where the bus is, that brings fear that people can behave irrationally when that happens. And especially when it's your kid. And transportation's been brought up a few times. And again, this is not an attack on you, because I understand what your job function is, and it's a tough one. But I have no problem having the conversations with the board and the community in regards to spending what we have to make sure our children are actually safe. And we can make sure that they're safe, and we know that they're safe. If there's one accusation, it's followed through, no matter who it comes from. And that's what I want to talk about, is how we get it so that parents actually trust the district when there are all these accusations that are taking place, because that seems to be the problem. There's a discord between the board, the district, and the community. And I seem to get the answers I need, but is the community getting the answers they need? Because they're coming to me with frustrations, and I can only do so much. But I need to make you aware that there are accusations out there. And again, I had an issue the first day of school. Again, it happens, and I understand that. But teachers and transportation's huge. My kid needs to be safe. Every kid needs to be safe. I just really hope that we're focusing on communication. I know that the district had put out something so that we are able to know when buses are late or they're not doing certain things. Again, we work the kinks out. There's just been so many little things I've heard that I want to make sure we focus on transportation and make that a key component of the budget. Because again, if there's a bus company that comes in at $1 million, but they've had 75 accidents on their record and they're still hiring the same people, I don't want them driving my son around. So I'll pay the extra $3 million to make sure my son gets to school safe. So, thank you.
Ms. Peterson?
Mr. Shaw, can you talk a little bit about, by chance, just the bidding process, RFP and general municipal law, and what constraints the school district must follow? Or it's not constraints, what are the legal things that school districts must follow?
Okay, so there are two ways to secure transportation companies. One is through bidding, the other one is through an RFP process. Let me speak to the bidding process first. So the lowest responsible bidder is the one to whom the bus routes must be awarded. So they have to be responsive, they have to meet all of the specifications, but they also have to be responsible. And if there are problems with their performance, whether it's in another district or in this district, to rule them out would require some degree of due process. Usually it would be a hearing held in executive session by the Board of Education. They'd have an opportunity to present facts, and then a decision would be made. And if someone is ruled out as not being a responsible bidder, there may be litigation that follows. So that's one process. The other process is very sophisticated, an RFP process where there are certain elements that are assessed pursuant to commissioners' regs. I think it's at 156.12 or something. And then there's a rating process by a team to determine who would be the bidder who has the best rating for particular routes. So those are the two processes, but disqualification does require due process.
Ms. Mackenzie Boucher?
So that kind of answers my line of questioning, but is there a threshold for number of complaints versus like how we disqualify someone from bids? Because I was under the impression that per New York State, you only really need to go to 3 bidders at a minimum for just bidding in general. That would be one form of the question. And then have we ever considered as a district the cost benefit analysis of our own fleet of buses?
So can I respond to part of that? So the reason why the district works with 5 different companies off of the RFP is because we need that many vehicles. So the rating process, the person who had the highest score, that company is the one who gets all of our business first. And then we went down to the next score, and they got the next allocation based on what vehicles, equipment they could offer us. So the ranking comes into that award process, but we need all 5 of them to meet our transportation needs as they currently sit. And even then, as you heard from Ms. Coyne, we're having some challenges doing that. The same is true when we look at the bids that we did for athletics. When you look at the table of responses, you'll notice that not everyone responds to the particular trips, and we have to award each trip so that our kids get to those competitions. So when we look at the price and we look at who responded and the transportation that's needed for athletics, that's taken into consideration when the purchasing agent makes that recommendation to award.
Mr. DeRay?
So we are in the second year of a 5-year contract, so we're not really going to go out to bid for the big routes for a very long time. So my question is, what is the evaluation process of our current vendors? Do we meet with them quarterly, annually, only if there's a problem? How's that done?
Well, I speak to them daily, several times a day. I do speak to them. We do have quarterly meetings. We talk about, some issues that have come up. Most of them, most of the time, we're talking about shortages of drivers and shortage of vehicles. The day-to-day operations and the issues that we have on the bus are handled in our office and by their dispatchers. Their supervisors, their safety supervisors handle those things. Most of the time, our focus is not just about the safety, but also on how we can get our kids to school, because we are short drivers and vehicles.
I'm sure. Is there any recourse? Once again, we're in a 5-year contract, and potentially a vendor could not be performing correctly. Do we have any recourse once we're in the contract?
I'm not familiar with.
Christine, should I answer? Christine? Do you want me to answer the question?
Yes, please, Mr. Shaw.
So the recourse would be determining if someone's in breach of contract. And there may be litigation, and hopefully you would prevail in the litigation.
Nothing further, thanks.
Ms. Boucher.
I see the in-district totals too. You have regular transportation, special transportation, universal pre-K. How many pre-K students have an IEP that are under sped? That would require technically special transportation.
So for UPK, we don't have a special education. We have one special education class, I think, for UPK. But other than that, there isn't special transportation so far for any students. I don't know that any of that require it.
What if they have
other
an
than that one
IEP though?
class.
The county assumes responsibility for transportation for preschool. We have two classes, one that we started this year, one at Bonneville, one at GAMS. The GAMS class is part of the UPK program, so it just blends in with the rest of that class. And we do provide transportation for the Bonneville students because it's our program versus other county programs that the county is responsible for that.
So, sorry, one more. So if there was an issue with a UPK student, would that fall on the county level, not the district level? That's my confusion.
That's a whole nother night and a whole nother conversation.
Got it.
It's a collaboration. We do get complaints and we do address them, but they essentially have to handle the transportation complaints because they run the buses through there, but we do address them and use the CPSC process to address any concerns parents may raise.
Mr. Howard.
Thank you, Madam President. So, Ms. Coyne, I don't envy your position, I really don't. Because everybody's emergency is their emergency. And when you're talking about someone's child, someone's children, that is their number one. You're dealing with 11,000 children. So I guess my question to you is this. You just stated that we have a bus shortage, we have driver shortages. Understanding that, that's going to impact routes. Is that information shared with the parents, with the community, understanding that we are short? And are we doing anything from an incentive perspective to encourage more people to apply? Is the rate too low? What is going on? People need jobs, but are we doing enough to encourage people to want to be bus drivers? Because if we're doing the same thing we've been doing, we're going to get what we've always gotten. So is there any incentives out there to encourage people to want to be bus drivers? Because bus shortages and driver shortages is going to equal longer routes and issues that I know you get calls every day. How do we deal with that?
So we had, I'm sure some of you are aware, when in 2020, when COVID hit, we were extremely short and and I made daily phone calls saying that buses were not going to be running because there was not a driver. So all of our bus companies increased their wage considerably. So the hourly wage for most of our bus companies is about $26 an hour. In addition, they have offered training stipends of bonuses to come in. They will train you. West Point Tours, for instance, will give a bus driver trainee $3,000 once they complete their training. They still cannot. Everybody is doing everything they can think of to try to bring in as many people as we can. It is a part-time job. And the split shift is something that maybe somebody with a part-time job doesn't want to work at 5 o'clock in the morning when some of our buses go out. And also they don't want to work a 5-hour day where they have to be in at 6 o'clock in the morning, leave, and then come back and not finish their day till 4:30. So, we have a specific targeted group of people that physically can do the job and also are willing to do the job under the parameters that are required.
One more, I promise this is it. Who do we not bus? Is there any kids excluded from getting a bus? Like if they live in a certain parameter of the school, we would transport every kid even if they were on Rose Street?
Right, just the high school is a half-a-mile walking distance for high school students.
But if
Other
they
than
needed,
that-
if they wanted transportation, could they get it?
Yeah, we have a bus stop on the corner of South and Montgomery for Horizons.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Peterson?
I think that was, in my beginning comment, Ms. Boucher, that was a part of the larger things that we will have to discuss as a part of our budget development. I know that Mrs. Coyne and Mrs. Roaring are working with some recommendation, because we know that transportation is a large budget driver within our fiscal arena.
I lied to you. I have one more. This is a personal question. My son goes to a daycare where he's required to stand out in the parking lot from 7:30 in the morning when I drop him off till the bus gets there at 8:40. Is there a way that the district on their end, because again, we've tried to talk to the town, because it's in New Windsor, we've tried to talk to many people, they will not put just a simple bus covering. My question is, why won't they drive up to the school, up to the daycare? Because again, it was pouring rain this morning. My son was out there until the bus came. So that's another question I have, is who makes that determination where that bus goes? Because you have preschool to 5th grade, I think, 6th grade, that stand out there. So for example, my son gets off the bus at 4:30, but they don't go back into the building, which is probably a quarter mile, it's a walk. It's in where Kmart used to be in New Windsor. So they stand at the Vales Gate entrance, and that walk is all the way to Planet Fitness.
Right, right.
So in the snow, again, snow, rain, any of that, it's gonna be freezing cold soon. Is there a way to make them go right up to where they need to be picked up?
So the protocol that we follow is that we do not go on private property. And the parking lot is private property. And the reason why we don't go on private property is because we can't guarantee that the area will be maintained with snow. There may be cars parked in areas they're not supposed to park, which could cause a block for the bus. There may be, we try not to back up buses, and there may be a situation where a bus may not be able to fit through the parking lot and have to back up, causing a safety issue as well. So there's several reasons why we don't go into parking lots.
So an actual covering for them would go through the town that we're in, not the district?
That I don't know.
I would pay for it.
Ms. Peterson? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. DeRay?
A while back, the board approved cameras getting into the buses or onto the buses. By percentage, how are we doing with that?
So I'm getting a lot of phone calls, so I can tell you that it's working. I'm getting phone calls from people that are receiving the tickets in the mail, asking how they can get out of it, telling me that they didn't do that. And we don't have any governance over that whatsoever. It goes through the county. It was a program instituted by Orange County. I don't know who gets a letter. I don't know what bus company, what bus it was that they went through the Reds. But like I said, I am receiving a lot of phone calls on about it.
Going back to the question, are they all done? Are we 50%?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
Oh,
so they're implemented.
Yep.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So in the interest of time, I'm going to keep us moving along. The business office has a number of functions that we perform for the district in a support function. We include accounts payable, accounts receivable, extra classroom fund administration, financial administration of grants, payroll, purchasing, risk management, tax collector, and treasurer. Our accounts payable office is responsible for processing all payments for the district, including the payroll deduction payments. Prior to entering the payments, they must secure all the supporting documentation and required signatures to authorize the payment. And all payments are reviewed by our claims auditor, both in our financial software as a first step, and then after checks are printed manually as a second step. In the 23-24 fiscal year, they processed a total of over $204 million across all funds and payments. So far through October, they've processed just under $54 million across all funds. Accounts receivable is responsible for invoicing. So we do invoicing for facilities use, catering by the food service department, as well as the UP pre-K meals that they provide to our community-based organizations, non-resident tuition, foster tuition, and health services. So when other districts have students enrolled in non-public schools within our district boundaries, we provide those services, and therefore we bill them for those services, just as they bill us in kind. The Extra Classroom Fund is administered by the Extra Classroom Treasurer that the board appoints every year at the annual organizational meeting. This is our Student Activities Fund. There are currently 44 active clubs, 35 at NFA, 5 at South Middle School, and 4 at Heritage. And to the right of that, you can see the cash associated with each of those clubs at this time. The Extra Classroom Treasurer works with the club advisor and the student treasurer to ensure accurate and timely deposits of funds received through their fundraising efforts, as well as ensuring that the proper disbursement process is followed. All payments for the Extra Classroom Fund are also reviewed and approved by the claims auditor in our two-step process. There is an annual audit by the external auditor of the Extra Classroom Fund. This is separate from the district's audited financial statements, and there have been no findings that have required a corrective action in that report in a number of years. Lastly, in 2023, we asked our internal auditor, who's separate from that process, to come in and provide training to all of our NFA administrators so that they could provide some support and assistance to the advisors in their building. We also do financial administration of our grants. We prepare the grant budgets. We monitor the expenditures throughout the year to make sure that those are in compliance with the grant budgets. As any priorities change, we prepare the amendment and submit that amendment for authorization. And once that's approved by SED, we will revise the spending plan in our financial software and execute it accordingly. We prepare the drawdown. In most cases, our grants receive an initial upfront disbursement of 20% of the grant when it's approved by New York State Education Department. From that point forward, the district advances the funds for those grant expenditures and then gets reimbursed from the state after the fact. The purchasing agent prepares and evaluates all RFPs for the grants. The grants director approves and reviews all requisitions against the grants to ensure that those are, again, in compliance with the approved budget. All payments are reviewed by our claims auditor in that two-step process for our special aid fund as well. At the end of the grant cycle, we prepare a final expenditure report. This is incredibly detailed. It's transaction by transaction of what we did in each category that has to get submitted to the state. When they sign off on that final expenditure, we get our final reimbursement. In the 23-24 school year, we had 39 grants totaling just over $66 million. And in the 24-25 school year, we are administering 27 grants for just over $22.6 million. This does reflect the expiration of those one-time federal funds, which was a significant infusion of cash to the district for several years. The payroll office has 4 positions responsible for processing payroll every 2 weeks. They also submit all the monthly retirement reporting to the employees and the teachers' retirement systems. When the employees get ready to retire, the payroll department is responsible for verifying employee earnings as well as years of service, as that is true critical components of the pension calculation. They maintain all the garnishments and other deductions for employees. On a biweekly basis, we're paying just over 2,200 people. When we look at overtime and after-school programs, those times come in on paper timesheets, and we process approximately 650 of those each payroll cycle. Our average biweekly payroll right now is just over $6.6 million. Our purchasing agent is responsible for issuing purchase requisitions and purchase orders in every single fund. So for us, that also includes the Newburgh Free Library, which is different from many districts. They make sure that all the documentation that's required is attached to the requisition in WinCap before they issue the PO, and if it's not present, they follow up with the department or building that's made that request to correct that before they proceed. They are responsible for district compliance with general municipal law and the Board of Education's purchasing policy. They identify New York State Office of General Service contracts as well as other public bid contracts that we can piggyback off of and cooperatives that we can participate in to procure. There were just over 4,700 purchase orders issued across all funds in the 23-24 year, and so far we have issued just under 2,300 POs across all funds. In fiscal year 22-23, we issued 41 RFPs and RFBs, and that went up to 42 in fiscal year 23-24. This is a very significant increase in the number of RFPs and RFBs that were issued after the 21-22 school year. One of the key focuses when I came to the district was really making sure that we were in compliance with our procurement procedures, and to do that, we needed to increase the number of RFPs and RFBs, and we have. The purchasing agent also administers all those RFPs and RFBs and leads the evaluation process and makes the recommendation for award to the board. They're responsible for notifying vendors whenever their contract is awarded, the contract is going to be terminated, and communicating any issues in compliance with the contracts. They also accept donations on behalf of the district and prepare resolutions that the board approves. And they're responsible to work with dispositions. So they receive all disposition requests, they prepare the board resolution that you see, and then they coordinate as needed to make the dispositions occur. Risk management is a new function for us in the 23-24 school year. It's really focused on workers' comp based on our significant workers' compensation expense. They work with our benefits specialist in the HR office and our third-party administrator on any claims that are submitted. They collect evidence around the claims, and they provide that to the TPA. They may go out and visit the site of the incident to see if there was any disrepair or other issue that may have caused an incident. They work very closely with our insurance carrier and administration around mitigating and training our staff on how to work safely to reduce the number of occurrences. And we continue to work on early intervention and reporting improvements. This individual also does claims frequency and severity analysis, really focused on our higher risk areas, which in our district is going to be operations and maintenance and food service, where there's more labor happening. Our tax collector is responsible for receiving taxes during all 3 collection periods. She provides a daily reconciliation to the treasurer and submits all the payments received to the deputy treasurer to prepare for deposit and recording of the revenue in our financial software. She prepares the tax warrant for the board to approve, arranges for tax bill printing and mailing within the statutory timelines, prepares and sends to the county all delinquent taxes for relevy, and completes all the tax forms that are annually required to be submitted to New York State. She also completes an annual verification of properties. When you file your taxes, you have to indicate which school district you reside in, and sometimes those are not 100% accurate, so each district receives a verification request, usually around the end of June, to do that. Our final function is the district treasurer, who's responsible for signing all payments on behalf of the district for accounts payable and payroll. This position is annually appointed by the board at the organizational meeting, as well as the deputy treasurer who assumes this responsibility in the treasurer's absence. They also issue all the invoices for the accounts receivable that we discussed earlier in the presentation. They review and approve all of the journal entries and cash receipts that are entered in our accounting software by the deputy treasurer so that we have a segregation of duties. There's 2 people in the process, someone who enters, somebody who reviews. If it needs correction, it goes back for correction before it's reviewed again and then approved. We also have a 2-step process associated with any wire payments to ensure that there's not a single person able to move money around. They oversee the work of the extra classroom treasurer, and they lead the year-end close process, working with our accounts payable office and our business administrator to ensure that accruals are done and entered in WinCap correctly. They're also responsible for completing required reportings with state education, the state comptroller's office, and the IRS. They submit our quarterly sales tax and payroll tax payments to New York State. Sales tax is generated by our extra classroom fund, our library, and our cafeteria fund. They submit monthly reports to the board, and they work with both our internal and external auditors, providing requested information to facilitate the audit process. By board policy, with the Assistant Superintendent for Finance, the treasurer manages the district's investments and is responsible to track all reserve funding and use.
Mr. Stewart?
I noticed you were talking about workman's comp, that we have quite a bit of workman comp cases. What type of workman comp accidents are we typically experiencing most?
So I can give you a quick answer, and we can follow up in the board BOE weekly with additional information from the risk manager in terms of what she's seeing. We have a lot of instances of people tripping and falling. We may have instances where they fall without tripping, but we're looking very closely at those matters to determine whether or not workers' compensation, property liability, and then following up on the cases to make sure that all the paperwork is in order as well. But I can have her provide a synopsis for you.
Yeah, one other question. You said that we collect funds for catering. I wasn't aware we do any catering.
The cafeteria fund does catering, and so we invoice on their behalf for the catering that they perform.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great. So our final presentation this evening is capital project update, and that is going to be presented to us this evening by Mr. Rich Peckham from CS Arch and Mr. Ben Alling from Jacobs Construction. So if you guys want to join me.
We'll do this.
Ready.
So, as you can see from the agenda here, there's been a lot of different projects that have been ongoing. Mr. Velez talked about all the things the district staff did. Now we're going to talk about all the things that outside contractors have been doing, which range everything from the concrete walk and stair replacement, NFA, heritage, status of the NFA locker room, the emergency roof replacement that Mr. Velez already mentioned, the big project, the new CTE building under construction, look at the budget on that, status of where we're headed with the new Windsor School, and then stuff on Proposition Overall 4 and 5 status. So I'd just like to always start with this, that the purpose is to make the program must improve the education of our children if we're doing construction. So the status of the NFA emergency concrete replacement, the work is substantially complete except for a couple items. There's some doors that had some delayed delivery that we're expecting in March of 2025. So the final completion will be May of 25. There's also some traffic coating, a coating that goes on the exterior concrete for longer durability that has to wait for warm weather. And actually with students not there because of the odor it creates when it's put down. So we're looking at final closeout of this part of the work in June of 2025. Heritage Middle School site, a large portion of this is complete at this point in time. Just some work still continuing on the secondary exit out of the site. You can see here from the map the area that's in progress there. The rest of it's largely complete at this point in time. And to provide New York State building aid for the site work, we had to do a little bit of work on the building. So the gutters were replaced on the front side of the original school. You can see the new gutters and drip edge in the pictures to the right. And this is just if this plays.
There's a link there, but I don't know if you have the ability to.
We're going to not play that, but this was just, we did some aerial drone photos to show how the bus circulation now works with all the improvements that were completed at this school. And so the secondary access road determined that the existing water main is partially on the school running, was discovered, and there's some additional work that was necessary relative to get the water main reconfigured for that. So to finish, that's what one of the delays has been in getting this completed. And so now we're moving into paving, concrete curbs, finish the grading, planting seeding, and the one service road light. Here's just some other pictures. Ran into some rock removal we had to deal with. That's been completed at this point in time. The major stormwater work has been completed, and now they're moving on to finish relocating the water main, and then the pavement and the curbing and the finishing touches there. So the main bus loop was operational for the start of the school year on August of 24. That secondary access road will be completed in the spring of 25 for full project closeout anticipated in the spring of 25. So you can see here just a listing of all the change orders that have been processed to date. And right now, the project is tracking $240,000 under budget at this point in time. Next, we'll move on to the NFA locker room project. You can just see here in the plan, the area we're talking about on the lower level of NFA underneath the gymnasium area. The overall plans have been presented previously, a major renovation for the boys' locker room, and then creation of team rooms for both the boys and the girls. Right now, we have submitted our addendum to SED for final approval. We're just waiting for architectural approval. The engineers have approved the project, and so is the fiscal associate at State Ed. So we're looking at getting this out to bid in December, pending SED approval, with award of contracts hopefully in January, and we can start construction in February and have this ready for the beginning of the next school year. As Mr. Velez already mentioned, there was an emergency roof replacement project. So the areas here that are shaded are the areas of the roofing that was redone over that 6-week period in the summer. And you can see all the solar panels that are on this building that we talked about, that those panels came off the area that was re-roofed and have been reinstalled at this point in time and is now operational. As the schedule shows, restored the solar panels in November, and we're looking for final close out of this project very shortly. New CTE building. So here, just as an overall reminder, this is the plan of the building. Main bus entrance off of West Street, main vehicular entrance off the other road, separate loop for parents to be able to drop off, parking and service areas behind the building. At this point in time, we've gotten the footprint of the building pretty well established. These are just the floor plans that have been seen before, the rendering of what it'll look like. So as you can see, contracts were awarded in July, and overall scheduled here for the program to start operating here in September of 2026. And this was the Newburgh, this is some more drone footage that we won't watch, but you can see how the site's been contained and most of the foundation work has been completed at this time. There was a lot of unsuitable soils that everybody's been aware of now. They've been pulled out and replaced in the footprint of the building at this point in time. Here you can see some photos of that foundation work going on, and the CMU, or concrete masonry units, which are forming the stair towers in the building, is going up at this point in time. Just a couple photos from the formal groundbreaking that was held. And overall, the project is tracking on schedule and on budget at this point in time. So here's kind of the summary of all the contracts. There were all the contracts that were bid as part of the contract with Pike Construction, and then there's other contracts that are being done through the cooperative purchasing or state contract process to guarantee certain materials that the district wanted to be procured for the building. Change orders to date, here's a summary. Obviously, the big one was all that unsuitable soil that was found, but right now we have a remaining contingency of just under $6 million. In just as an anecdote, your biggest concerns for change orders in new buildings is usually, well, you get out of the ground and anything you're going to find under the ground. So at this point in time, hopefully that we're in good shape on the contingency here. New Windsor Elementary School. This construction progress, this is being broken into 2 phases going forward. Phase 1, which is basically the majority of the mechanical system upgrades and electrical system upgrades on the existing building. That part, we are putting together the documents to get that out to bid with an anticipated award date in February, so that we'll then have a general contractor on board to work with the mechanical and electrical and plumbing contractors that are already under contract and will be ready to start work as soon as the general contractor's on board. Then areas where we have a little bit more redesign work to do in the addition for the gymnasium, and then the renovations for the main office and the nurses suite. That work we're going back to state ed with after the first of the year. And then that will be, based on state ed review, that will be bid and awarded for construction to start on that addition, hopefully this coming summer. Here's just the overall schedule. The phase one work, we're going to try to get that work going second shift to catch up on some of that work. The other thing that'll be redone during the summer of '25 is the main parking lot at New Windsor. That's going to be totally reconstructed at that point in time. And then the work on the phase two work for the additional start as soon as we have contracts awarded. And then there's some areas that we'll have to wait until you have the new gym complete, because we can't convert the cafeteria that's also part gym into just a cafeteria until the new gym is on board. Here you can just see those different areas that we were talking about. The lower level, the areas in orange are the areas that'll be starting construction as soon as we have contracts awarded. The areas in gray are areas that will depend on some of the addition being completed. And then on the left-hand side of that plan, you see that area A, which is the gymnasium addition, and then the other renovation areas there. As I had mentioned, this site work, this kind of highlights the area that will be reconstructed in the summer of '25 to get that parking lot reconstructed and expanded. And you can see here the overall financial aspects of all of the projects at this point in time, showing a balance for construction for other projects for the board to decide on of a little over $46 million. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ben to talk about the rest of the projects.
This is just updates on Temple and Meadow Hill emergency electrical upgrade project that happened over the summer. We're in the final stages of project closeout documents, but all of the work has been complete in time for school opening. These are just some status update photos for that work. They removed the old transformers, and then you can see they've set a new pad-mounted transformer outside the school. And this work is in preparation for the mechanical upgrade work, which is in the next set of slides. This is Proposition 1, Phase 1 of this project, which covers Meadow Hill, Temple Hill, and Gidney. These are just a typical floor plan of where the mechanical upgrades will be happening in these schools. And you can see that, again, these are just the next floor up. This is Gidney, and this is the wing, the classroom wing that they're doing the mechanical upgrades, as well as the gymnasium. And that's just the upper roof. This is the estimated budgets for each of these projects. The Meadow and Temple Hill, it's $9 million apiece, whereas Gidney is about $3 million. So we'll see. Right now, this is out to bid. Bids are due at the end of December. And this is just the preliminary schedule for this work. Starting in bidding out in November. January 14th is an anticipated award for the board. Notice to proceed will be issued to contractors January 15th. And these are just the anticipated dates. November 20th is when we expect to close this project out. Any questions?
Ms. Boucher?
For the NFA concrete, you noted that there's doors that are missing. I'm assuming we have temporary doors there to be up to code. Is it a manufacturer delay, and are they paying for like the extra that we've had to pay for the temporary doors or the reinstallation?
No. No, they put in a temporary frame and door knowing that that date was going to be missed. to obviously allow you guys or the school district to beneficially use the school in the interim process.
So did we have to pay extra money for that, or it stayed the same cost? Okay, thank you. My other question is just on the heritage, bottom line, you had your 240,000, under budget. Does that include the 160 estimated cost for the water main?
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
There's potentially more cost because that work is now pushing out past the winter months. So the goal is to get the water main work done now before we hit, any more colder weather. And then the concrete, the paving, and all of the seeding work will happen in the springtime.
Can I offer one real quick clarification to Ms. McKenzie Boucher's question first? So Mr. Velez reminded me that what we did with those temporary doors, they're actually repurposed old doors, so there was no cost associated with that to us.
Mr. Stewart.
Yes, on the CTE building, I know it's not going to be till August 2026, but I talked to John a little bit in the back room about a pathway or an access to NFA from the CTE building. Now that we have equipment on site, wouldn't it be prudent to clear the path or come up with some sort of a way for the future now?
So the CTE building, and I'll let Dr. Campbell also comment on this, is actually going to be a fully scheduled building. We won't have students moving between NFA main and the CTE site. They'll either be attending NFA main or they'll be attending the CTE building. We are working very closely with our director of CTE to get some of our students currently participating in our CTE programs up to the site so that they can really observe some of that work in progress as well.
Mr. Bugarelli.
Thank you. It will be self-contained, but you will still have students participating at Maine for after-school activities, plays, sports, things like that. So a passage to and fro would be, a decent idea.
That's not currently in the scope of the project. So we will have to address any needs for that as we go forward, whether it's a shuttle at the end of the day to get down to Maine for some of those activities for the students out of the CTE building and then pick up the students at Maine and continue on, which would make a lot of sense because then we avoid any weather issues, or if there's another path that we need to pursue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 4.6. We have a resolution to approve a mural at New Windsor School, and I understand the person who is here to donate the mural to us is here. Would like to just say a couple of words. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rob Munier. I'm a professional artist from New Windsor, New York. So I've been speaking with Mr. Campt over at New Windsor School, as well as Mr. Rio as well. And this is the mural that I proposed for the exterior of New Windsor School. This was going to be donated by myself as just a gesture of goodwill as a longtime student of Newburgh Schools, and as well as donation in memory of my mother, Diane Munier, who worked with Newburgh Schools over 30 years, and over 25, particularly at New Windsor School, as the cook manager in the cafeteria. So, yeah, this is the mural that I proposed that we came up with. And, yeah, hope you approve it. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, and thank you to your mother for her service. Thank you. It looks beautiful.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Ms. Freeman Mack.
I just wanted to let everyone know that Rob is remarkable. He supports our community in many ways. He comes out for the backpack giveaway, for the School is Cool events, for every single event that we do, and our kids love him. He is very creative. He loves art, and he has a passion and a knack for it, and our kids really enjoy you. Thank you, sir.
I just want to also add, you may have seen some of my work at Silk Factory. I did the exterior walls there as well as the interior murals, and my work is hanging there as well. I've done a mural for the town branch of the Newburgh Library. My mural's on the wall there, as well as a big canvas downstairs here in the lobby. To Alice's Coffee, and you may have seen it, the Newburgh Brewery as well, so you may have seen it around town as well, so.
Thank you so much for everything.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I have a motion?
Second.
Discussion? Okay, roll call.
Ms. Thomasina Bello?
Yes.
Ms. Mackenzie Boucher?
Yes.
Ms. Victoria Boucher? Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Doré?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Ms. Politi? Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Christine Bello?
Yes. Okay. So now I turn it over to the board clerk.
Thank you, Madam President. I have the approval of the minutes from the November 12th board meeting.
So moved.
And a second. Discussion? Okay, roll call.
Ms. Mackenzie Boucher?
Yes.
Ms. Victoria Boucher?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Doré?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Christine Bello?
Yes.
Ms. Thomasina Bello?
Yes.
That concludes my items, Madam President.
Okay. Resolution 6.1. A resolution to approve persons who may attend executive session. Can I have a motion? And a second?
Second.
And discussion? Mr. DeRay?
Yes, this is for Mr. Shaw. We had a meeting back on the 12th of November, which is very similar to every executive session we've had since I've been here, and probably as long or longer than Mr. Howard's been doing it. We had the clerk there, the entire cabinet, all the members of the board that were present that evening. So my question, just an opinion, are we holding these meetings in violation of the law?
Is it a consensus that I answer this question?
Yes.
Okay. So technically, the people who are attending, other than the board members, should be invited to attend. It is a long practice in this district to have the executive cabinet in attendance.
I guess a follow-up would be who does the inviting?
It could be in a resolution. It's not uncommon for it to be informal, but that's how the law is stated.
Ms. Boucher?
Is the writing of this resolution more aligned now with the law as you see it with other school districts, or does it not need to be amended based off of what you've seen in other districts?
This practice varies greatly from district to district. There are some districts where no one is in executive session other than the board and the superintendent. The board clerk sometimes is and sometimes isn't in exec, and that then goes to the issue of where the board adjourns its executive session, whether it would be on the way out of exec or here, and then resuming the meeting here. So it isn't universal how that's done.
Mr. Howard?
Yes, so the request for this resolution, I need to ask, how does this impact student outcomes? What is this about students that is in this resolution? Why are we, why do we want to change what's been going on? Let me finish. So the expectation is for the superintendent to be in executive sessions, taking on questions that she may not have answers to, and then she has to invite someone to come in to answer a question? Is that the model you're talking about? I'm talking to the board president.
Yes,
That's the model you want?
yes.
Why?
Why?
Yes. I'm curious.
Take an oath of office?
What does my oath of office have to do with this?
You're upholding the law.
No. Our board lawyer said that it's not in violation of the law, and it's whoever is deemed relevant. I would think that the superintendent should be able to determine who is relevant of her team to be in an executive session to help her move the meeting along.
And there's absolutely nothing to prevent her from inviting a certain administrator in, if they have information that would be useful to the board. Ms. Boucher?
As it stands right now, in the present moment, without this resolution, we as a board would be able to request that someone does not come into executive. So this forces the hand. But again, right now, let's say that we were to go into executive session and we were to talk about something specific that we didn't want someone in, we have the ability to say we would like so-and-so excluded from this executive session.
So what's the purpose of changing it? If you can put people out, why are you changing it?
Mr. Bugarelli?
Makes no sense.
Thank you, Madam President. So with this, when we go into exec, we spend a lot of time in exec. More time than the public wants us to be in there, more time than we want to be in there. If we start excluding members of the cabinet, the time now, extra time, those seconds add up because every single board meeting, executive session that I've been in, and I'm sure Mr. Howard, who's been a lot more than I have, the superintendent always looks to one of her executive staff to say, can you answer this question? What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Those seconds now to go retrieve somebody from somewhere else just extends that, and it's disrespectful to the superintendent and the professionalism of the cabinet. We've never had a problem with people in there. So I don't understand what the genesis of this is, especially when we're in compliance with the law.
Ms. Bello, could you cite the policy for 6.1 regarding approved persons who may attend executive session? Could you read it for the public? Okay, I need the board president to find the policy which speaks to attending executive session.
Find it. Read it. Try to do it without help.
I looked it up before I came to these.
We all have it. I can pass it to you.
I got it on my Google search.
Okay, be it resolved that the only persons who may attend executive session shall be the board members, superintendent of schools, deputy superintendent, board attorneys, other outside attorneys, and employees, if any, with specific knowledge about the matter to be discussed.
I'm going to ask you one more time. Could you please go to the policy where it speaks to attending executive session? Because that's not a policy, that's a resolution that you've created in isolation that I learned about from an email from the board clerk. So I'm waiting to hear the policy. Which policy are you driving it on? I want to be transparent for the public, and I want us to make sure that we're following the policy, the law.
Well, what policy says that, says the opposite?
The one that you're reciting from. So you tell me what law or which policy you're reciting. I'll wait.
Point of order, can we call the question?
I'm asking the board president to read the policy where she's getting this information from regarding who's invited into executive session. Very simple.
Listen, I have objected to this for a long time.
Ms. Mello, could you read the policy?
I don't have the policy in front of me.
Ms. Peterson, could you find the policy and could you read the policy, please?
So Newburgh and Lawrence City School District Board Policy 2330, executive session. The Board of Education may hold executive session at which only the members of the board or persons invited by the board shall be present. However, the executive session is the only available for the purposes of discussion and exempts as the law allows. Formal action must be taken in open session. Executive sessions can be requested by any member of the board or of the superintendent of schools. And then it goes on to talk about just conduct within the executive session.
That's the policy. So the policy states that I am allowed to invite my executive team. It is disrespectful for you to put a resolution that you send to the board clerk about who can be invited into executive session. As you are well aware, when we are inside executive session, even oftentimes if the attorney presents information, my executive team has additional information. I do not run the district in a silo, and this is yet another attempt to undermine my authority and my leadership. You are creating a hostile work environment, and it's very toxic, and it's not necessary.
And it's going to cost the district a lot of money. A lot of money.
My sole purpose is to follow the law.
No, it's not. You don't even know it.
You are also insinuating that I'm breaking the law. We're not breaking the law. The district has been following the same practice and the policy for years. Now tonight, we're breaking the law. We're not breaking the law. You are being inappropriate, and you should not make such recommendations. And furthermore, you should have a conversation.
I'd love to have a conversation if you were willing.
I'd like to make a motion to call the question. Can I have a second? Roll call.
Roll call.
To call the question, Ms. Victoria Boucher,
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli,
Yes.
Mr. DeRay,
Yes.
Mr. Howard,
Yes.
Mr. Stewart,
Yes.
Ms. Christine Bello,
Yes.
Ms. Thomasita Bello,
Yes.
Ms. Mackenzie Boucher.
Yes.
Roll call on the question. Ms. Victoria Boucher,
No.
Mr. Bergarelli,
No.
Mr. DeRay, Mr. Howard,
No.
Mr. Stewart,
No.
Ms. Christine Bello,
Yes.
Ms. Thomasina Bello.
Yes.
That motion fails. Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Ms. Boucher, sorry. Thank you.
Okay. Resolution 6.2, a resolution to approve agenda setting. Can I have a motion and a second? Discussion? Mr. DeRay?
What if we're going to have a meeting on a Thursday? When will the planning take place? This only covers meetings on Tuesday. What if we're going to have a meeting on a Thursday?
Agenda setting?
This says, agenda setting is at 8 a.m. preceding the Tuesday of such meetings. What if the meeting is going to be on a Thursday? When are we going to carve in stone
Well, then
when
we-
the agenda setting is?
Yeah, then we could just, I offered 5 days a week, okay? And it's very difficult to collaborate with inflexibility.
I have to comment. A few weeks back, we were talking about times again. I think it was about the 17th time we were talking about times. And I'm going to quote you. You said, "Nothing is carved in stone, Mr. Dore," when we were talking about times of meetings. Yet here you are being a sculptor
That's right. Just literally.
and carving a meeting in stone at 8 o'clock before the Tuesday every single time. This is ridiculous. This entire process, how much time we killed on 6.1 for nothing. Now we're going to kill more time on 6.2 for nothing. Nobody wants these except you. And you are tone deaf to it. Nobody wants this. They don't want it. They don't want it. One person wants it. And you're going to keep on bringing this stuff up over and over and over. It's enough.
We need to, exactly, the superintendent says we need to have a discussion, that's where we would have it. But you can't make it impossible, you can't be inflexible about when we can meet.
Do you want to go first?
Mr. Bulgarelli.
So, yet again, you're mischaracterizing or misrepresenting me in the general public. Not only do you do that on the agenda, but you're also speaking it into existence now. So let me correct the record for everyone, because what I've noticed is that you come to meetings and there's a slither of information. So let me present the entire information. This is the fourth board. I've had the privilege of having amazing board presidents to work with. We generally try to make our meeting on Friday afternoons with the expectation that the Board of Education, the trustees generally get the agenda perhaps on Friday afternoons, Friday evenings, with the notation that we may add or remove some items. There are approximately 50 to 60 individuals who work on an agenda for every 2 weeks. It is not me. We then set the agenda. We discuss the items on the agenda. We bring it to the Board of Education, perhaps the president, for a discussion. It is a business meeting. These items, these six, your section, that's not board business. That's not district business, right? So we set the agenda for business items for the school district. Now, we started meeting on Friday afternoons. Did not work for you. I acquiesced. We started meeting on Thursday mornings. Then we stopped meeting on Thursday mornings at your request because one of the other trustees, your intern, you said she was doing deliveries before 11 a.m. And so you had to get back to the shop by 11 a.m. So I moved it to Thursday morning. You went back again and you changed it. You wanted to change it to Wednesdays. You called the board, Mr. McCoy, the district clerk, who the only time you knew to use my number for collaboration was when you called for another trustee's computer. That's not my role. The other thing you said to Mr. McCoy, sorry, Mr. McCoy, the other thing you said to the district clerk, I have to change meetings because my intern has to pick up another job. And so I can meet Monday through Friday, with the exception of Wednesday, at 9 a.m. Then again, I said, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with meeting at 9 a.m. with the understanding that I'm going to have to add agenda items. Your response was, that's not happening. Once we meet and set the agenda, nothing else is going on. Miss Bello, I cannot run a district like that. We have the largest organization in the county. We employ most people in this county. I cannot stop on a dime when we have important business to discuss in our district. That's not how it works. Do not tell people that I'm being inflexible. I've changed 4 times for you. 4 times. And for you to sit here and say I'm not being collaborative is simply untrue. Stop doing that. That is my character. You're misrepresenting me.
Mr. Bugarelli.
So the real problem I have with this is if we vote on this, and if we were to vote yes, that sets this kind of in stone. So anytime there's a Thursday meeting, every time there's anything that has to be changes, wouldn't it have to go up for a vote again to change the time of the agenda setting? So if you have a flat tire, if you have a cavity, if there's snow down south, if whatever reason you cannot make that 8 a.m., it takes a vote for a special meeting we can't have before a certain time. That's something else we'll talk about in a little bit. The inflexibility is insane, putting this in stone. Just, you try to agree to your time and that's it. By making us to vote on it, it's just saying that's it and we have to gather again just to vote on changing a time for another meeting.
Agenda setting is very important. And that's why we have to make a resolution so that we meet.
Agreed, it's very important. But to change it we just had a meeting on a Thursday not that long ago. We would have to have a quorum of the board agree to meet to change an agenda setting time because we had to change the date of a meeting. And we couldn't get 2 special meetings just a few weeks ago to deal with some of the issues that the public has problems with, namely the football issue. And we couldn't get people in here for that. So when are we supposed to be able to change this when the things in life that happen? The toothaches, the funerals, the flat tires.
Not only that, I have a schedule, and I have commitments, and I have meetings, and so my schedule isn't dictated by that. Ms. Peterson, Ms. Bello, please pull up the board policy regarding agenda setting. Policies belong to the board. Ms. Bello, please cite the policy and read for the transparency.
Okay. The agenda for each meeting stating the business of the meeting shall be prepared by the board president, the superintendent of schools, and clerk of the board, shall accompany the notice provided to each board member and the superintendent of schools. The agenda shall also be available to news media and the public at the superintendent's office on the district website. Victoria Boucher.
So I agree that the president should be part of the agenda setting meeting. The issue that we have in this district is that we can't come up with a time and a day that works. So right now, instead of arguing about a time and a day, we need to come, because I also, full disclosure, I think you're all aware, I asked to be part of the meetings. I wanted to be part of the agenda setting meeting so that I can clarify that day with Christine and the superintendent what was happening. So these circumstances, when we receive the agenda and we see this, we could have talked about this at the agenda setting meeting so we were all on the same page. We come out at this meeting and we look like no one's on the same page, okay? So we need to come up with a day and time that works for everybody, and I agree with that. But when we're not included in those meetings because of whatever the reason is, we get this. So I don't know what verbiage has to be there or who created this exact verbiage, but superintendent, you had no issue with Friday. I have no issue with Friday. You had no issue with Friday, but the time was an issue. 8 o'clock is early, I get that. I don't have your calendar, so I don't know what you do. But again, Fridays were an agreed upon day because it's the end of the week. So what time on Friday works for you?
So past practice, it's been in the afternoons. However, there have been times based on my calendar that it's sometimes Thursday, sometimes Wednesday. But I want the public to also know that even if we don't get to meet for an agenda setting, right? Because I've only had this occur more so in this time, right? Every resolution has an explanation, and board members have an opportunity to ask us questions about the resolutions. So it's not as if the agenda is created and it goes live and there's no explanation. Board members receive, they ask us questions, and most often, if not, we have admin content which is hidden to the public, but board members have an explanation of every single item that's on the agenda. So we answer every question. It's not as if everyone's seeing it for the first time with the general public. No, we answer whatever questions we have for every agenda item. There is no way, yes, it can work on Fridays, right? But the times may change because there are different things that I do for on different Fridays. So those times I would move it to Thursdays. The past practice has been with the deputy superintendent, the president, and the vice president. So I'm not sure what the issue is, what the concern is, but I'm letting everyone know that I won't make those meetings because my calendar has prior engagements.
Mr. Howard?
Yes, so my question, I'm a bit confused. Why is this in resolution form? Someone went to the microphone earlier, I believe it was our past board president, Dawn Fuchek. Like, she made an excellent point. This is something that should be conversation. Why are we wasting time during a business meeting talking about items and trying to encumber the superintendent to a specific time, to a specific place? That's so lack of respect for her as a professional. You can have a conversation with her outside of this. Why are we doing this in resolution form? I don't get it.
It's essential that we meet.
We have a policy.
The problem, though, is that she's saying she's not going to come. The superintendent. So again, I can't rightfully ask for an agenda setting meeting without the superintendent. Right. So this is where the problem is coming. She has to be there. You have to be there. We have to play nice in the sandbox. We just have to do it. So I am going to motion to call the question.
Second.
Second, roll call.
We're calling the question on 6.2. Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. DeRay?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Christine Bello?
Yes.
Ms. Thomasina Bello? Ms. Mackenzie Boucher?
Yes.
Ms. Victoria Boucher?
Yes.
Okay, roll call on the question. 6.2. Mr. DeRay?
No.
Mr. Howard?
No.
Mr. Stewart?
No.
Ms. Christine Bello?
Yes.
Ms. Thomasina Bello? Ms. Mackenzie Boucher?
No.
Ms. Victoria Boucher?
My answer is because I need the superintendent at an agenda setting meeting. So the answer is no.
Mr. Bergarelli?
No.
That motion fails.
Okay, 6.3. Discussion. Mr. Howard?
Can you please give me your definition of a special meeting? If we're saying that, hold on, special meetings can come out of the blue. To encumber us and tie us to starting all special meetings after 6:30. Please tell me what that is, what policy this request is tied to.
Okay. This is a benefit to the people. First of all, a special meeting is in between your regular meetings, so it's not on the same day. But the public voted for 9 board members, and I believe they want all 9 to be fully informed. And it also prevents anybody from trying to manipulate the vote by, suppose you have someone who is adverse to something you want to have passed, and so you make it at a time when you know is inconvenient. So 6:30 was good for all our other meetings, so.
total transparency, you think it's proper to schedule all special meetings after 6:30 on a weekday?
On the week, not on the weekend, it's
I said weekday,
on a weekday, yeah,
after 6:30.
at 6:30. Ms. Boucher?
So I don't know how much I'm allowed to say, but I know for a fact that I called for a special meeting on a situation that I believe we should have met about. And I asked for that meeting on 2 different days with 2 different times and was shot down for both. My question is I can accommodate this, but how does this work with the actual special meeting? So an audience member said, what if it's on the day of a regular meeting? I'm not okay with doing a special meeting at 6:30 and then starting the regular meeting at 7:30, because then we're just back to the beginning of time where we started this whole thing out. This is very legit for me. Like, this is just a hard line that we're drawing. So I understand the time, but what if we have to have a meeting at 4 o'clock in the afternoon because a decision needs to be made by 5? Like, that's the question.
A special meeting is a meeting that takes place after the regular meeting, in between meetings. So it doesn't it shouldn't be on the day of a.
So I just have to be very clear on this, and I hate that word now, but the meeting I asked for could have determined the outcome of a big thing for this community.
Right. The football thing. The reason why the community is mad.
So
Because you didn't want to call me son.
if, again, in order to have a special meeting, we have to have a quorum. So we have to have 5 people, okay? So again, I'm sure, because when I asked for this meeting, I called several board members, and I asked if they were available. It was suggested that I offer 2 days and 2 different times, which I did. So the frustration is, it's like a give and take. So I'm asking for this because it's a time frame, and it needed to be had before a certain date. And we didn't get to do that, and now it's like a domino effect. So I'm not sure if, I don't know how we resolve this in a resolution. I do think we can have a conversation about it, but this is not something that we can just come up with as a line, a hard line. Because there are times that are gonna happen when we have to make decisions by a certain time. So that's the hard part that I'm trying to figure out. Because again, if I am told something at 3 o'clock and I'm told we have to announce it within 24 hours, there's all these laws that we have to follow. So we follow those laws, and then we can't do it because someone can't make it, and then we miss the opportunity to fix the problem, which makes it a bigger problem. And that's what's happening currently at this time. The biggest frustration is we can't say anything. So now I'm frustrated because, again, we could have had this opportunity, but 5 people couldn't make it. And I gave 2 options. So that's my issue. I asked for I think it was a Friday or a Monday. I asked for Friday at like 5 and Monday at 4, whatever it was. Again, I have a kid that does extracurriculars. He goes to doctor's appointments. There's certain days I can't make at 6:30 because I'm making those appointments at 6:30. So if I want to do it at 5, I don't see why there can't be an accommodation for that one day. That's the frustration I'm having, and that's what I had to say. Because again, the meetings that I asked for were special meetings, and I wanted them to have a discussion as a group. And we didn't get to have that discussion. And it's not fun having 60,000 questions dodged at me when I can't say a word because we didn't meet. That's the frustration. I agree that we should have standards and we should be structured, and that is what it is. But sometimes when these things happen, we have to do it when we have to do it.
Mr. Howard?
Yes, just one question, Madam President. My question to you, why would we handcuff ourselves with a time of 6:30 only for emergency meetings? Why would we do that? What does that benefit? Who does that benefit?
Well, you don't have to. I just thought that because it's fine with the regular meetings, that 6:30 wouldn't be a problem. But, I mean, you could do it as early as 6.
So I can answer that kind of. So again, from the rules and what we've lived by is that when we call a special meeting, we set the time. So if I were to call a special meeting, I can say at 6:30 on a Wednesday. Right. But with this going through, and I'm reading it, is that this is a hard line in the sand, that we can only do it at 6:30, which could cause an issue, is what I'm hearing.
Call the question, please.
Can I have a second? And roll call on call the question.
Call the question. Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Christine Bello?
Yes.
Ms.
Yes.
Thomasina Bello? Yes. Ms. Mackenzie Boucher?
Yes.
Ms. Victoria Boucher?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. DeRay?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Roll call on 6.3. Ms. Christine Bello?
Yes.
Ms. Thomasina Bello? Yes. Ms. Mackenzie Boucher?
No.
Ms. Victoria Boucher?
No.
Mr. Bergarelli?
No.
Mr. DeRay?
No.
Mr. Howard?
No.
Mr. Stewart?
No.
That item fails.
Okay. Oops, 6.4, a resolution to approve that the superintendent shall report via email to members of the board any alleged criminal acts within 24 hours. Ms. Peterson.
I just have a question because I'm in charge of operation. Can you define for me what criminal activity is? What does that mean?
The recent event that caused everything to be canceled for the season.
Right, but what does that mean? Because there's a lot of things operationally that happen here day to day. When you see criminal activity associated with schools and students, I'm not sure what that definition, like what do you mean by criminal or events? Because we did communicate with the board some concerns that we did have surrounding that, and I think there was request for meetings, but which kind of goes to the other resolution, but I'm just wondering what that definition is, just for the board and for us to understand operationally what we're being asked.
In order to provide oversight, we are asking to be informed.
Right, but what's the there's a lot of events and there's a lot of different things that occur on a daily basis. Criminal activity, has a very specific definition. When I look it up, criminal activity is, we're talking felonies, like conspiracy, different things. So what does that mean and when you're associating it to students?
What is your threshold? What is your threshold for criminal activity?
Well, the recent incident that brought a great deal of shame to the district, we should have been informed,
Right,
fully
but-
informed on that.
Can I just answer that, Ms. Bello? So in the incident, and I can't speak of all because some things were discussed in executive session, and Dr. Manning and myself made the board apprised as to what we could and could not discuss with you because it is an ongoing investigation. And the board plays a part when there is an incident on our campuses. Students have the right to appeal to the board about our decisions. So we can't preview you as a part of the due process that the Board of Education holds over an educational institution. So there's certain things that we administratively cannot share with you. And we explain that in executive and our communications with the board.
Nobody was asking for names. We were asking so that we would be aware of what policies we could change in order to make improvements.
So I know that we discussed that before regarding board policies and a policy committee where we discuss, and I know that we've discussed that there are a lot of different things that go into the governance of this district and policies and procedures, and we make resolutions that are not clear, which then creates more confusion in our operations. And our operations at times are very confusing because of the size of our district. So we have close to 11,000 students and close to 3,000 staff members on the daily basis. I know you just listened to a transportation route. We transport, is a criminal activity, a bus accident. I can tell you that we notify, like I'm not sure what this means. And then policy development and recommendation go through sometimes shared decision-making processes, sometimes at recommendation. So if there's a policy or procedure, Dr. Manning or myself will bring it to the board for consideration for revision if we feel that it is impeding or if we feel that we need to expand. And we work with our legal department to make sure that we are also in compliance with New York State Education Department as well as just general law. So I'm not sure still on what the definition of criminal activity, not the policy development part, what does criminal activity mean?
Violence in the school, which is inappropriate.
Okay.
Mr. Howard?
Yeah, just one request, Madam President. You've said on 3 or 4 occasions, we. You use the pronoun we want. I have not been consulted or for a consensus on any of these items. So if you could say I, that would be better. Because you keep saying we want. No, it's not we. It's you. Or whoever got you up to this.
Point of order, Madam President. In terms of the discussion, this hasn't been put on the floor yet, so you should entertain a motion in a second so we can have the proper discussion.
Okay. All right. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Can I,
And discussion.
Before you begin, I'm sorry. Every single, again, another misrepresentation of my leadership and the folks who report to me to mischaracterize us. Every single event that occurs, the Board of Education receives a communication in addition to whoever it goes to. For example, if an incident occurs at one of our schools, the Board of Education receives communication. I don't know what you are talking about regarding criminal, because criminal involves the police. Now, if for some reason or another you are being reported that there are police activity on one of our campuses, have you ever considered that it could be a medical emergency? Someone could be in crisis? I can tell you that we had several members of our staff and student population who had medical instances this past week. That's not criminal activity. I'll have Dr. Freeman Max educate you a little bit about our code of conduct and what we do.
thank you. I'm sorry, I was burning up over here, but in my irrelevant existence, I want to explain something. So this resolution kind of creates a false narrative for the district, but even more importantly, it creates something else within the board, should you want to proceed with it. But one thing I did want to explain is that Newburgh and Large City School District is a public school district. We're not a prison. We're not anything, a juvenile detention center or anything like that. We have a code of conduct, and if a student has an infraction, there is a consequence. But if a student has an infraction, it is not a criminal act. We don't have any criminals in our schools. We don't have any criminal students or adults. We have staff, we have faculty, and we have scholars. And sometimes there are infractions that occur, and there are consequences to those actions. And it's always a learning process, and we operate with humility and dignity at all times. Furthermore, we have to acknowledge that there is a system for reporting, and we do use it very firmly in this district. And I believe Dr. Campbell alluded to it. For addressing any such incidents, we have a system in place. It's pretty much been in place the whole time. So the district protocols are coupled with state and federal regulations. We have to report things. And we have to ensure that our infractions are handled appropriately and reported to the relevant authorities. We have a crisis management plan, we have safety protocols, reporting procedures. All of that is designed to ensure transparency. We are so transparent. Everything that happens in our schools, we send out communication on it. This happened today at Heritage, this happened at this building, this happened at that, because we pride ourselves on communicating, and it is something that is at the forefront of everything that Dr. Campbell stands for, and this whole executive cabinet. That's what we stand for, transparency. There's more. So it really can't be the role of a board to micromanage or to be investigators or to be first responders. That's not the role of a board, unfortunately. There are people in place that handle that and do it lovely. The other thing that's really important are two things that this board has to maintain at all time. You have to be objective and you must be impartial. Because whenever there is an infraction that occurs that elevates to the level of a superintendent hearing and that family wants to appeal it, you must hear it and make a decision upon it. So for us to do what this is asking, which again, I don't know what a criminal act is, it would cause you to now have to recuse yourself and not be able to hear that appeal.
The resolution states that no names are required, but to
So
be
let me just speak about the name part. So the resolution, it does risk crossing into legally sensitive territory with allegations that are delicate and often involve ongoing investigations and privacy considerations. So even if you don't have names, you're aware of the incident. And again, it limits your objectivity and your ability to be impartial. You have to be that. These kids rely on you to be that. And lastly, the resolution, it claims that these reports are needed to expeditiously address policy. Great. It's kind of misguided. Because policies are developed based on patterns, data, and a thorough analysis, not an isolated incident. And some of the policies, as you've experienced tonight, they're in place already. Thank you.
Ms. Mackenzie Boucher.
Can I make a motion to table this to be reviewed by Mr. Shaw?
Mr. Shaw can respond to you. He doesn't have to, you don't have to table it. We over-communicate because there are things in other districts that folks don't really know, right? But because we are held under this microscope here, we find ourselves that folks are always looking for us, looking for the wrong thing, right? So we want to make sure that we over-communicate and give everyone everything that they need, that who's pertinent to it. But the Board of Education receives every single communication that goes to every single school. We can't hide criminal acts. If there was a criminal act, the law enforcement would be involved. You would know. It just doesn't happen. The most recent incident that Ms. Bello is referring to, it's not a criminal act. We had some infractions of our code of conduct. If it was criminal, you would know. Did you have something to say, Ms. Bello? Did you have a comment? Okay, because I saw you speaking while I was speaking, so I just wanted to make sure that I got what you needed.
Didn't we motion to
Okay.
table? Was there a
Sorry.
motion on the floor to table?
Second.
Point of order, Madam President. There's a motion on the floor to table and a second.
Oh, roll call.
Tabling 6.4, roll call. Ms. Thomasina Bello? Yes. Ms. Mackenzie Boucher,
Yes.
Ms. Victoria Boucher,
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli,
No.
Mr. DeRay,
No.
Mr. Howard,
No.
Mr. Stewart,
Yes.
Ms. Christine Bello.
Yes.
Motion to table passes.
Six point five, a resolution to approve the timing of financial reports. Can I have a motion
So moved.
and a second? Roll call, discussion? Mr. Howard?
Yes, Madam President. Is this the same item we discussed at the last meeting or the meeting before? And the question was raised, or it was explained that we do have access to these reports? Is this the same thing?
That's if we come down here to get them. I want the board to have them.
So if you want them, you can get them, correct?
If I come down here, they should be, I mean, they're already, the checks were written and all of this stuff. And so, and we did vote on this once before, and Ms. Boucher said that she wanted to change her vote. Mr. Stewart?
Yes, we just discussed this in the Audit and Finance Committee, and they said they're going to be added to the thing. So there's really no need to discuss this.
Mr. Bulgarelli?
I'm sorry, added to what?
To the treasurer's report,
So we would see that?
yes.
Okay.
I would just like to clarify, Fred noted in Audit and Finance today that as of March 16th of last year, that was the last time that we had received a register of the checks. We've been receiving them for years prior, so that's why the request was made. As discussed, it's going to be added back into the treasurer's report, so that was resolved today at Audit and Finance.
So
Okay.
this is moot, is a moot point. Motion to table, motion to dismiss. I
We
mean,
don't. Victoria?
So I can explain why. I had a concern that, and again, I didn't know this until we had discussed it, that was not available. So right before the last meeting, I asked to change my vote because I think it's accountability to know what we're paying out. However, per the discussion they had, it was resolved, which we did not know before today. I want to just say that. We were under the assumption it wasn't.
Was this also asked for 2 weeks ago and we provided it within 24 hours?
Yes.
Correct. I thought so.
I think that some of this is just communication, and a board member communicated with us that this needed to happen, and we said, okay, we checked, it's not there. We provided it within 24 hours of the request. So I think the level of frustration as an executive leader that we're feeling, and I think the community feels, is that there is an immense amount of dedication and focus that comes into operating this district. And I think the board is a support to us in trying to, when we have a question or if they have a question, we try to do our best to respond to it. We are also responding to all of our parents and families. But if the question is asked, it will be provided, as we saw with the financial reports. To see this on the agenda, I think, was a little, we just provided this. So there's no communication. I think the only way that we can build communication is if we have communication and respect. And I think that is the gap that we're in right now as an organization. Let's communicate, let's get what we need to get done for the students here. But I think that is the frustration that the community is hearing, is there's a lot of misunderstanding with no communication.
Call to question.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Roll call on calling the question on 6.5. Ms. Mackenzie Boucher?
Yes.
Ms. Victoria Boucher?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Doré?
Yes.
Mr. Howard? Mr. Stewart?
Yep.
Ms. Christine Bello?
Yes.
Ms. Thomasina Bello? This would be roll call on the question, 6.5. Ms. Victoria Boucher?
No.
Mr. Bergarelli?
No.
Mr. Doré?
No.
Mr. Howard? Mr. Stewart?
No.
Ms. Christine Bello?
No.
Ms. Thomasina Bello? That item fails.
No for me too.
Pardon me,
You
Ms.
keep forgetting me.
I keep. Sorry,
I'm here.
Ms. Mackenzie Boucher.
No.
Thank you.
No.
Mr. Doré?
Sure, thank you. I'm kind of a numbers person, too. There's about 40 people in the room. We just spent 45 minutes on items that, as Mr. Howard pointed out, are solely you, since you never discussed them with anybody. That comes out to about 1,800 minutes or 30 hours that have been selfishly wasted by the board, the cabinet, and unfortunately, the citizens of our community. An absolute 100% waste of time.
I'll turn it over to Assistant Super. Oh. Ms. Boucher?
So this is why you both need to be in the agenda setting meeting together.
This shouldn't be agenda items. I don't disagree with you, right? But these shouldn't be, these aren't agenda items. These items don't drive the business. We run the business portion of the district, and these items are not business. This is, you receive this, so it makes it seem as though you're not getting it. And as we had the healthy waste of time discussion, we realized that these things already occur. So if there's a question, even if we don't meet because Ms. Bello is too very busy, she can call me the way she called me for a laptop if she needed a question, right? That's the only time she knew to call me, when someone's laptop wasn't working. Because I think that's what she believed that my function was, right? So if there's a question, and I acquiesced, I responded, I took care of it. But if Ms. Bello needs to reach me, or she wants to schedule some time, we can do it over the phone. Matthew has brought things to Ms. Bello's establishment. We can have conversations. I understand that you run a business. I do. But I'm running an organization. I'm running an organization. So it's hard for me to stick to a time for things that work and to be inflexible to your schedule. It doesn't work that way. You're being unreasonable. So if you want to be a part of agenda setting for the business that runs the district, you have to be a little bit more flexible. And it's going to change, I promise you. Because this Friday, we don't have school. So if we had a meeting on Tuesday, when would we meet? You have to understand that.
Anything else? Okay, I'll turn it over to the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources.
Thank you, Madam President. On the Human Resources agenda, we have items 7.1 through 7.15 for your consideration on consent.
Does anyone want to separate any out? Victoria?
7.15, please.
Okay. So can I have a motion on 7.2? Oh, Mr. Stewart? Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Can I have a motion on 7.2?
No.
Through 7.
7.1 through 7.1 through 7.14. You're minusing 7.13 and 7.15.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Roll call.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. DeRay?
Yes.
Mr. Howard? Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Christine Bello?
Yes.
Ms. Thomasina Bello?
Yes.
Ms. Mackenzie Boucher?
Yes.
Ms. Victoria Boucher?
Yes.
Okay, resolution 7.13.
Oh,
What's, I can't hear you.
7-3, not 7-1-3.
Oh. Oh.
Jesus.
So he said 7.3. And he said 7.1.
So did I. Entertain a motion on 7.13, or 7.3, if that's what he pulled out.
7.3. Can I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
A second. Discussion? Mr. Stewart?
Yeah, I just have a problem with the contracts again. The problem I have with the contracts is that, number one, that the person can give 60-day notice to leave, but we have to give them 1 year notice to re-up. I have a problem with that. And there's no probationary period. I don't like that. And I don't like the fact that it renews on the 1st of July, so we could call a special meeting to have these pushed through at the last minute. I would like to have a probationary period. I would like to have like a 90-day notice if we're not going to renew. I cannot, go ahead.
Ms. Slimer?
So 7.3, is that if we're talking about that, for that particular position, there is a probationary appointment for that. For 7.3, there's a probationary term of 3 years.
Mr. Stewart?
Yeah, so to me, a probationary period is not 3 years. It's like 6 months, 9 months. 3 years is not a probationary period.
For pedagogical employees in the state of New York, for most, it's a 4-year probation. But in this case, this individual has had prior tenure as an administrator, so the probationary period gets reduced to 3 years. Mr. Shaw can comment, but I believe that is the law.
That's correct. During probation, there is a reduced right in terms of termination from employment. It's under the Fair Dismissal Law. So this isn't permanent.
Ms. Boucher?
Who's handling this right now?
It's been divvied up amongst the business office, as far as I know. Correct, Ms. Roaring?
That's correct, and our acting business administrator was on tonight's agenda with a resignation date of December 12th.
Roll call?
7.3, roll call. Mr. DeRay?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
No.
Ms. Christine Bello?
No.
Ms. Thomasina Bello? Ms. Mackenzie Boucher?
No.
Ms. Victoria Boucher?
No.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
7.3 fails.
Okay, 7.15, can I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second? Discussion? Ms. Boucher?
So I understand wholeheartedly the need for the position. Again, being on this board since May, I see what it really is compared to what we know in the public. However, it really is hard for me to do this when I know at the building level, staffing is needed. For example, teachers, teaching assistants. I've toured schools, I've seen schools, security guards. I can't get behind a big hire like this, knowing that at the bottom, they need help. So that's my point.
Ms. Peterson?
I know that we have stated for several times throughout the evening that understanding around certain decisions that are made on our agendas, we need to have discussion, because I'm not sure that all the board members are aware, and I know that the agenda setting is set, and perhaps we can have, if there's questions about personnel items, that we can have an executive session prior so that we can answer and resolve any of these questions. Because there's certain actions that occur that are going to hinder and in some instances halt payment and district operations. I understand the need and the concerns around staffing in general, but if you have staffing, you also have to have a person that brings vision and also brings accountability to any system. So it is important, we do have staff members that are executing, but there comes a point when there are accountability measures that are placed on us under law by New York State, not only just New York State Education Department, but in some instances, New York State Department of Health, as well as general municipal law. And the people that know those laws that keep us out of litigation as a district is administrators. Administrators are trained and also educated in the running of a school district to keep us in those bounds. So operationally, you as a board, you have a right to choose whether to or not to support leadership. However, the functioning, the decision-making, the accountability, the results that occur within a district is led by leadership. So if there's a question about I encourage the board to ask the question. I encourage the board to have the executive session so that we can give you the why, because I'm not quite sure that we understand that in some of these positions, there's essential functions that are tied to them. And we are putting the district at risk by not having leadership and accountability over certain areas. And I can tell you from this position in particular pertains to cybersecurity. And if there is not someone over cybersecurity with a full set of eyes, or if there's not someone reporting data to the state as mandated, there will be an issue in this district. So I just encourage the board, if you do have a question about a position, place it in writing so that Human Resources Department, myself, or Dr. Manning can get back to you about the questions. If there's a concern about a contract or what is written or what have you, so that we can give you the answer.
We shouldn't come to this portion in an agenda when we've done our vetting, we've hired, these are functions that need to occur. I can tell you 7.15 is a mandated position for the district. We have to have that position. So we don't have this position, we're out of compliance. We also voted down a business function. Not sure who's going to be doing that work, because the person who's in that position now is leaving on December 12th. So I am not sure who's doing this job that we have a hole for. We don't disagree that we need teachers. We can't make them come. And what we won't do is make anyone else come once we vote down their resolutions, because this is the backfill to Ms. Peterson's position that we've been looking for since August. So now we have someone. We have all these questions in an open forum, and this candidate asked to come tonight. But we can't get to this point where we're attempting to fill positions that we're voting down or we're questioning. We agree that we need staff members. We're not hiring staff members. If someone comes to us, we present once they've been vetted by the principal, and we hire. We don't keep positions vacant because we want to. It's whoever comes to the table. I'm going to caution you, really caution you, because we just voted down a business official, and I'm trying to understand who around this table is going to be doing that function.
Well, the other thing, Dr. Manning, I just would like to add, that function has to be segregated from other portions of the business office. So I know that Mrs. Roaring just went over the different aspects and how, in order to stay in compliance with with the comptroller's office, certain duties have to be portioned out. And now we don't have an essential function of that, which is forcing us as a leadership to be out of compliance. So if there's a question, we encourage you to ask it.
Mr. DeRay?
I think what we just did here as a board, I voted for it, but we just hurt the district pretty bad. So I don't know every rule, but I know in the same meeting, people could have an opportunity to re-vote it or change their votes. There is a process. So I'm asking my peers, knowing what you know, that you just heard, if anybody's considering changing their vote, we have a human being sitting somewhere out there who risked everything for their career to sit here tonight to come work for our school district, and we know one paragraph about them, and we collectively voted no. And I think that's patently unfair. So if anybody wants to change it, please raise your hand and let's do it again.
I'd like to make a motion to table this till after executive session.
Second.
Roll call.
This is a roll call to table 7.15. Mr. Howard?
Madam President, I request to go into executive session to talk about these contracts and these hirings.
Point of order, there's a current motion on the floor to table.
Can I,
Yeah.
okay. So can I have a second? Oh, roll call.
This is tabling 715 till after executive session. Mr. Howard? Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Christine Bello?
Yes.
Thomasina Bello? Ms. Mackenzie Boucher?
Yes.
Ms. Victoria Boucher?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. DeRay?
Yes.
Okay, that's it. And now I'll turn it over to the Assistant Superintendent.
I requested to go into exec to talk about these contracts, these hirings.
Okay, I'll turn it over to the Assistant Superintendent of Finance, Ms. Roaring.
The Finance Division presents items 8.1 to 8.11 this evening.
Does anyone want to separate any out? Okay, so can I have a motion on items 8.1 through 8.11? And a second? Roll call.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Christine Bello?
Yes.
Ms. Thomasina Bello? Ms. Mackenzie Boucher?
Yes.
Ms. Victoria Boucher?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. DeRay?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Thank you, that concludes my items.
So now I'll turn it over to the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction, Secondary.
Our division presents agenda items 9.1 and 9.2 for the board's consideration on consent.
Does anyone want to separate any out? Okay, can I have a motion? And a second? And roll call?
Ms. Christine Bello?
Yes.
Ms. Thomasina Bello? Ms. Mackenzie Boucher?
Yes.
Ms. Victoria Boucher?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. DeRay,
Yes.
Mr. Howard, Mr. Stewart.
Okay. That concludes my items this evening. Thank you.
And now I turn it over to the Assistant Superintendent of Exceptional Learners.
Thank you, Madam President. Exceptional Learners has items 10.1 through 10.3 on a consent agenda for the board's consideration.
Okay, does anyone want to separate any out? Okay, can I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second? Okay. Roll call.
Ms. Thomasina Bello. Ms. Mackenzie Boucher.
Yes.
Ms. Victoria Boucher.
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli.
Yes.
Mr. DeRay.
Yes.
Mr. Howard. Mr. Stewart.
Yes.
Ms. Christine Bello.
Yes.
Thank you. That concludes my items.
Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby recesses into executive session for the following purpose. Matters made confidential under FERPA, employment, history of
History of employees or corporations, litigation J.C. Doe versus Newburgh ECLD et al., index number EF 001776-2021, J.M. Doe versus Newburgh and Large City School District et al., index number EF 005710-2021, and to obtain advice from legal counsel.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second? Roll call?
Ms. Mackenzie Boucher.
Yes.
Ms. Victoria Boucher.
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli.
Yes.
Mr. DeRay. Mr. Howard. Mr. Stewart.
Yes.
Ms. Thomasina Bello. Mrs. Christine Bello.
Yes. And the board may take action upon return from executive session. Can I have a motion to reconsider item 7.3?
Second.
Second. Discussion? Okay, roll call.
Roll call. Ms. Christine Bello.
Yes.
Ms. Thomasina Bello. Yes. Ms. Mackenzie Boucher.
Yes.
Ms. Victoria Boucher.
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli.
Yes.
Mr. DeRay.
Yes.
Mr. Howard. Yes. Mr. Stewart.
Yes.
Item 7.15. Can I have a motion
Hold on.
and a second?
We just
Point of
made a,
order.
mo- we, yeah,
So
point of
now
order.
that, so you reconsidered it, so it's back on the floor.
So we have to vote on it.
Correct. So then just entertain a motion on 7.3, and then we'll roll call. So now 7.3 is back on the floor, so entertain a motion for 7.3.
Oh, okay. So a motion for
Second.
3. Second. Discussion? Roll call?
Okay, this is a roll call to approve 7.3, the school business administrator, Ms. Thomasina Bello. Yes. Ms. Mackenzie Boucher.
Yes.
Ms. Victoria Boucher.
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli.
Yes.
Mr. DeRay.
Yes.
Mr. Howard. Yes. Mr. Stewart.
Yes.
Ms. Christine Bello.
Yes. Okay. And can I have a motion for Resolution 7.15?
Second.
Second. Discussion? No? Roll call.
715, roll call. Ms. Mackenzie Boucher?
Yes.
Ms. Victoria Boucher?
No.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Duray?
Yes.
Mr. Howard? Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Christine Bello?
No?
Ms. Thomasina Bello? That motion passes.
Okay, go ahead.
You would need to entertain a motion at this point, ma'am, to add 2 items to the agenda.
Can I have a motion to add 2 items to the agenda?
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Victoria Boucher?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Duray?
Yes.
Mr. Howard? Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Christine Bello?
Yes.
Ms. Thomasina Bello?
Yes.
Ms. Mackenzie Boucher?
Yes.
The first item added will be a resolution to authorize the board president to execute a settlement agreement. Be it resolved that the board president is hereby authorized to sign a general lease and settlement agreement to settle the case of J.C. Doe v. Newburgh and Large City School District at all, Orange County Supreme Court, index number EF001776-2021, as presented to the board at this meeting. A copy of said general release and settlement agreement shall be incorporated by reference within the minutes of this meeting.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
And discussion? No. Roll call.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Duray?
Yes.
Mr. Howard? Mr. Stewart? Ms. Christine Bello?
Yes.
Ms. Thomasina Bello? Ms. Mackenzie Boucher?
Yes.
Ms. Victoria Boucher?
Yes.
The second item added would be a resolution to authorize the board president to execute a settlement agreement. Be it resolved that the board president is hereby authorized to sign a general lease and settlement agreement to settle the case of J.M. Doe versus Newburgh and Large City School District at all, Orange County Supreme Court, index number EF0057102021, as presented to the board at this meeting. A copy of said general lease and settlement agreement shall be incorporated by reference within the minutes of this meeting.
Can I have a motion? Second. Any discussion? Okay, roll call.
Mr. Duray?
Yes.
Mr. Howard? Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Christine Bello?
Yes.
Ms. Thomasina Bello? Ms. Mackenzie Boucher?
Yes.
Ms. Victoria Boucher?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Roll call.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Happy Thanksgiving, yes.
Mr. Duray?
Yes.
Mr. Howard? Happy Thanksgiving, yes. Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Christine Bello? Ms.
Yes.
Thomasina Bello? Ms. Mackenzie Boucher? Ms. Victoria Boucher?
Happy Thanksgiving, yes.